Part 1. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 2. Volume 1 of Lan. First chapter. Kangnan Continent, Angwo, southern capital. It was late at night, but the sky was not calm. The dark clouds rolled, the gusts of wind rolled recklessly from the sky to the ground, and in the thick cloud crevices, electric snakes wandered along with the howling screams. From time to time, white light illuminated the edge of a dark cloud, as if gathering immense energy, waiting for the amazing blow to drop at any time. Stunned. A bit of golden light emerged from the central gap of the dark cloud, and straightened towards the ground. That golden light, to be precise, is a golden mang, extremely small and extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Jin Mang cut through the night sky and fell into the dwelling houses of the southern capital of Angwo. No more movement. Windy. The thick and huge cloud layer disintegrated and dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye, exposing the night sky like a black curtain, and a large bright moon. Boom. Ye Kong, who didn't know how long he had been in chaos, just felt a thunderous sound deep in his soul. Instantly, he woke up. Stunned for a long time, his mind was not clear enough, and the little girl's face was still shaking in her thoughts, and then she became the boss's face. Be careful. In danger. Suddenly Yehalo suddenly felt a danger. I saw a white ball of light. Ye Kong didn't know what it was, but he could obviously feel the anger of this ball of light. It was extremely hateful, aggressive, and desperate. How can the light ball have emotions? Ye Kong couldn't wait to think about it. Seeing the light ball rushed fiercely, he still had some fear in his heart. In a hurry, he just wanted to escape. No, I'm a hooligan. I am a hooligan, who am I afraid of? Ye Kong stopped for a moment. When he looked at himself again, he couldn't help laughing. It turned out that he himself had also become a white light ball, but he was several times bigger than the light ball that came over him. The light ball opposite is not only small, but also gives a very weak feeling. The brightness of the light ball is also very dim. What are you fierce? I'm several times older than you, afraid you can't do it. Ye Kong instinctively rushed towards the small light ball. The little ball of light was just a bluff, originally intended to drive out the foreign invaders, and now seeing Ye Kong's wanton counterattack, his momentum suddenly weakened. He turned his head and ran, and at the same time sent out a sense of petition. Ye Kong couldn't bear the other side's pleading. There was only one instinctual voice in his consciousness. With you, without him, you can only survive if you kill him. Ye Kong did not hesitate to jump up. The big light ball wrapped the small light ball easily. The small light ball struggled twice, and it was slowly melted by the big light ball. Soon, in that space, only the large light sphere representing Ye Kong was left, shaking freely in the space. Is this the legend of the house? After about an hour, Ye Kong finally woke up this time. He has a body, a new body. The original master of this body was also completely swallowed by Ye Kong in the light ball war. The little light ball I saw in the process of winning the house just now is the original master of the body, the soul of a 12-year-old boy. I'm only 12 years old, making evil. Ye Kong could not help but sigh, although in fact, he had the same meaning as killing a little boy. Although he is a hooligan, he is not a murderer. He never killed an innocent soul when he came to this world, but he would not change his behavior even if he tried again. After all, he was just a hooligan. There is no nobility to sacrifice himself for a strange boy in a different world. Ye Kong not only ate the child's soul cleanly, but also digested some of the memories left in the child's soul. The child's memory is somewhat fragmented, but through the fragments of the memory, Ye Kong has some understanding of the world he came to. This continent is called the Kangnan Continent, and he is one of the countless countries on the continent. The civilization on this continent is probably equivalent to the ancient Chinese appearance on the earth, but the language is different. Fortunately, Ye Kong inherited the language from the children's thoughts, So don't worry about speech incompatibility. It's just words, children do not know any of them, and Yekong has to learn by himself. To be honest, I got a little bit of information. It is strange that a 12-year-old should know a lot of things. On Earth, they are all 4th grade elementary school students. No matter how bad they are, they won't know a single word, right? Could it be that this is a child of a bitter haha family and cannot afford to go to school? Yekong searched the identity information in the child's memory and found that this is not the case. The opposite is true. The child's home is not generally powerful. It turned out to be Jenny's general's mansion. The child's father was General Anand Jenny's. His name was unknown to the child. It's such a confused little beast. Dad doesn't know his name. Yekong smiled and continued. Although the child does not know his father's name, the surname Ye is certain, because the child is also called Yekong. The two had the same name and same name. This sighed Yekong, and it seemed that he had come to this strange place, because there had been arrangements in Mingming, otherwise it would not have been so coincidental. As for more information, the child can't provide it, but deep in the child's consciousness, there are 3 deepest thoughts. Very strong thoughts, which are called obsessions and not excessive. First, only the mother is the best for me in the world. When I grow up, I must let her eat well and dress well. It's a filial piety kid. Yekong nodded with a smile. He was an orphan in the last life. He had never enjoyed the warmth of his family and mother. The addition of a mother now gave him a little comfort. However, soon he couldn't laugh. Children's obsession: why do fathers and half-brothers dislike me? Well, it doesn't look very popular. Mine 3, I'm not an idiot. I depend. You are not an idiot. Why don't you even know your father's name? Yekong is going to be crazy, if he is going to die, even if he crosses it, even if he wears it to another land, how can he steal an idiot? Body. God. You do not bring such fun. But in an instant, Yekong had another thought. Can an idiot's memory be believed? Who knows if this idiot fantasy book has been read too much? It is said that neuropathy likes to make stories in the brain. Yekong was happy, but then he denied it, because he felt that it was different from the earth. How is it different? The air is different. Can you feel the existence of air on earth? No, at best, you just feel and judge the freshness and turbidity of the air. But here, Yekong feels the air so clearly. The air here is very dense and thick, which is countless times that of the earth. That kind of feeling can't be said, I'm not used to it, and I'm not very comfortable. It seems that people who are used to drinking cool white suddenly change to sesame paste. More importantly, he could feel several different breaths from the air sucked into his nose. Is this the Reiki? Yekong was glad when he saw several novels about cultivating immortals. Everyone on the earth knows that if you have aura, you can cultivate your fairy. No matter, go out and see if it's really a different world. Yekong still wasn't sure when he arrived in the other world. He stumbled off the bed, passed through the room with old furniture, and opened the mottled fan. To blooming Yemen. Wow! What a huge moon! When Yekong closed the door, he was hung by the sky, and the moon, like a large round table, was shocked and dead. It's over, it seems that it's really coming to the other world. Yekong looked up at the super large and bright moon in the sky, slowly walked into the center of the small courtyard, and bathed his thin body in the bright Yinhui Yin. My last name is Zhao Ziaoa, I won't charge you 300 yuan protection fee. I beat Lao Tzu to another world with one palm. Why are you so vicious? A piercing heartbeat sounded in the quiet little courtyard. Call sign. The moon is so round here, and the night here is so quiet. This helpless call sign startled many sleepless people. Chen Juniang had just finished sewing and needlework, and blew the lights, and then opened the curtain to sleep. When she heard the sound of her son, she didn't know what happened, and quickly took a small step and went to the door to open the door. However, she did not run out. In the moonlight, his son's thin body was even thinner, the sadness of Yang Tian sighing. An unexplainable bitterness pours from the bottom of her heart. She leans halfway against the doorknob, and in the darkness, 2 glittering tears roll down. If I had done evil in my last life, punish me, Lord, why do you treat the air like this? Chen Juniang thought in her heart, wiping the tears in the corner of her eyes, walked back to the room, took a little thick clothes. When she walked to the door again, she wiped her face again, for fear that her son would see herself crying. Although his son is stupid, he is very filial. Core, is it a nightmare? Howling at midnight, how bad is it to wake up others? Core is a good boy, go back to sleep. Chen Juniang walked behind Yekong and put a piece of clothing on his son's thin body on. Yekong breathed a sigh of relief and smiled bitterly. He was already in the 20s on the earth. The tone like this coaxing a child made him extremely uncomfortable. Mom, oh, right, mother. Yekong had thought that this mother would be difficult to export, but it really didn't seem so difficult to yell out. But when he turned his head, he was still stunned. God! Is this my mother? Is it human or ghost? Chen Juniang's face was very strange, even horrible. In Earth's words, it is a yin and yang face. Seen from the right side of her face, this is still a pretty lady, but if you look from her left, that face will definitely scare you to sleep well at night. There is a scar on the half of the face, and the black is still red, and there are a few hairs on the red. And Yekong just stood on the left side of Chen Juniang. God! No wonder Dad and others don't like this Yekong. Ignore yourself. There is actually a mother with 2 skins. Gosh gosh. Laozi is the one who provokes him, and has even crossed Laozi to such a family. Please, where can I get a return ticket? Finding that his son was staring at his face rudely, Chen Juniang hurriedly covered his face with his hands, and ducked his head to dodge. Chen Juniang didn't blame her son for being ugly. She is a very inferior woman. Even her own son was frightened. She wished to dig a pit and bury her. Oh, no, Yekong reacted and waved his hands. Although he had no feelings for this cheap mother, after all, he just killed his son, and then relentlessly attacked the poor woman's only pride. Yekong couldn't do it. He hurriedly recovered his horrified look, and looked as usual, grinning. Mother, don't mind, I have nothing else to say. A child is not ugly, a dog is not a poor family. What's more about you than you it's ugly? Yekong finished speaking, and felt bad again, and quickly changed his mouth. No, you should say that you are not ugly, you are still very beautiful. It's not right to think about it. Can this look beautiful? Doesn't this make it sarcastic? Mother, the ugly point is okay, the so-called ugly wife's family treasure, the beautiful wife runs with others, others play more, play less. Chen Juniang fainted when she heard these words. Is this his son? My stupid son usually doesn't speak well. Why is he so fluent today? It's a whole set. Oh my God, do you know how much others play, but how much less do you play? Couldn't he be stupid? The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 3. Chapter 2. Chen Juniang had this idea, but she couldn't believe it, so she hurriedly re-examined her son. She was surprised to find that her son's smile was not as stupid as before. Then she saw his eyes again. Clear and bright, with a hint of slyness. Chen Juniang was startled. His son didn't seem stupid. But how does it feel strange to look at it? In fact, Yekong was also guilty, and found that Chen Juniang was staring at herself, and her heart was fluffy. Wife, what are you looking at? Got a silly son, changed to a smart, handsome ice and snow, you secretly. Of course, Yekong did not say so on his mouth, and quickly laughed. Mother, Do you think today's Konger is different from before? Hee, don't worry about it, your son is still your son. As for why it's different, it's because I had a dream tonight, and an old man with a white beard said, starting today, you're not stupid, so, my brain will work. Hey, mother, do you cry? Listening to her son's fluent words, Chen Juniang was already in tears. She was so happy. This is happy tears, excited tears. This Chen Juniang is also a bitter woman. Since she was a child, she looks ugly, her family is poor, and her brothers and sisters are so many. But her face is ugly, but her hands are clever, and she has a good hand and needlework, especially the embroidery work is very good, and the embroidery stuff is lifelike. No matter how clever and kind a woman is, no one wants it. In the Kangnan mainland, there is no cosmetic surgery hospital. In this way, 200 beggars are posted, and the beggars will not agree. So Chen Juniang was still unmarried at the age of 18, and this was considered an older youth. I can't find my husband's family, so I can't eat for nothing in my parents' house. Chen Juniang helps people do needlework when she is idle. Although Chen Juniang's emotional life was blank, her work went smoothly. Skillful and not afraid of hardship, 1 or 2 times, he won the appreciation of General Genies. The old lady of the Ye family asked Chen Juniang to come to General's house every day to do embroidery work. The days are not good and are fulfilling. However, this woman was also unlucky enough to do embroidery work well. One day at noon, General Genies Harem was drunk, and I didn't know why this guy transferred to the embroidery room. It happened that Chen Juniang was in the embroidery room. Coincidentally, Lord Ye saw the little lady from the right again. At that time, Lord Ye was very young and had great achievements. He had a good appetite and a good mood and strong surname. When drunk and dim, General Ye saw that the embroidery girl looked good, very good, and impulsive after drinking. Naturally, she didn't care whether the girl wanted it or not. She dragged Chen Juniang to the bed, and she just said it irrationally. When Lord Ye woke up, he saw the woman's face in his arms that was like the scene of a car accident, and he could imagine the disgust in his heart. Originally General Ye had never been a little girl, but who knows this time, Chen Juniang was pregnant. Ye conceived in October, and Ye Kong was born in vain, and Ye Haren's wife also liked it. So Chen Juniang came to work from time to time and officially lived in Jianyi's house. Of course, status is definitely not there, no matter how the third wife and fourth concubine are not her, there is no favor. Ye Haren sees her back spine numbness, and it becomes unnecessary when necessary. However, this is good for Chen Juniang. There are independent courtyards, 2 envoys, and some broken silver. As ordinary women, this is enough. But it didn't take long for the old lady to travel westward with her crane. The old lady had hung up a few years ago, and the head became the narrow-minded second wife. Then Chen Juniang's girl was transferred away, the silver was getting less and less, and the embroidery work she was sending was getting more and more, and she slowly became a subordinate. At first Ye Haren also saw 2 sentences on his son's face, but when Ye Kong grew up, Lord Ye was surprised to find that the kid was not only unfavorable with his tongue, but his head was also unfavorable. He was disappointed and never cared about the bitter mother. Something happened. Soon, Chen Juniang changed from a subordinate to a subordinate. In the past, I was only the embroiderer of the master. Now even those girls are sending over the work. Even if Chen Juniang is at work, she still has to embroider until late at night. In short, this woman is very miserable. She has not had a good life in her whole life. She looks ugly and gave birth to an idiot son. She was not bullied in the compound. She laughed at her and scolded her in person. Ordinary things. There is a piece of lyrics that is most appropriate. I seem to see that a tragedy is happening and there is no joy in the play. But who knows, God opened his eyes, and his son was not stupid when he woke up. Happiness came so suddenly, she only used tears to express it. Mother, don't cry. Yekong was a little flustered, and most men are afraid of women crying, and he is no exception. The empty child is really good, mother is happy, Chen Juniang said with tears. Just happy, just happy. Yekong suddenly felt that his nose was also sour, and reached out his small hand, helping Chen Juniang wipe away the tears on his face, and did not avoid the black and red scar. Mother, rest assured, I will heal the black scars on your face, Yekong said with determination. Chen Juniang felt that her son was comforting herself, and wiped her tears with a smile, that mother will wait for you to grow up and treat your mother. It's okay not to grow up. Yekong believes that there is nothing difficult in the world, but he is afraid of those who care. Chen Juniang didn't want his son to delay his future in order to treat his face. He used to be stupid, but now he's not stupid. She laughed. This is not a rush, anyway, my mother is used to it. How does this work? From now on, you are my mother. Whoever dares to look at it in the future, I will leave Yekong, and he will never recognize him, Yekong said word by word. You stupid child, and you're talking nonsense, how can you be stingy because others see it? Chen Juniang listened to what he said and smiled and taught. That's what they owe, Yekong laughed as he said, then he helped Chen Juniang, mother, let's talk back to the house. Before the baby didn't know how to learn, many things don't understand. Ask you for a second or two. When Chen Juniang heard her son speak more and more, she was also very curious, so please let me know. When Yekong and Chen Juniang mother and son met each other, and there was a conversation under the moon, there was also a man and a woman in the next room who opened the curtains and lit the oil lamp. This man is a 40-year-old man with a yellow face. He put on his pants and groaned, who is crying and shouting in the middle of the night? Damn, Laozi just came back 3 times and wanted to engage with his mother-in-law. The last time was not safe. There was a middle-aged woman reclining in the tent, and she yelled at the thin quilt, it's not the silly kid next to the female ghost and her. I'll roar twice and let them stop. The middle-aged man wanted to push the window. Hey, the 4th child. Suddenly the middle-aged woman came down from the bed, grabbed the man's arm, and laughed, you stupid, you shout like this, they've stopped, but what good are we doing? The middle-aged man named the 4th son touched his head and did not understand, we still have benefits. The middle-aged woman shoved the man vigorously and scolded, why are you so stupid? The housekeeper Yesai greets her money every month, and the dining room horse sister also knocks her at every turn, and you are an idiot. The 4th child understood it and laughed, I still have a savvy wife at home. It's better for me to knock on her with such a ugly woman and a silly son who wants money for birds. Primary 3 is looking for a martial artist. The 4th wife saw the man getting rid of it, and laughed, you dead devil is finally getting rid of it. Go back quickly, my mother is not full yet. Wife, you just wait, the man who called the 4th child went out. 3 steps and 2 steps, the 4th rushed to the next door, and yelled at Yekongniang who was about to enter the house, hey. I said what are you doing here, what funeral are you going to do in the middle of the night? Let's not let anyone else go to sleep. Yekong looked up and saw a family-like person walking in from outside the courtyard. He was in his 40s and was disheveled and looked like he had just crawled out of the bed. Yekong quickly found this person from the inheritance memory. Mr. Li, the 4th housekeeper, lived next door, relying on the 2nd wife's distant relatives, and usually did not bully the women. Oh, it's Li Guanqi, I'm sorry, but Kong just became normal and shouted when he couldn't help but he was really sorry. Chen Juniang hurried forward to make amends. Look at it alive, seeing your grimace during the day, and screaming at night, is that idiot normal? In addition to eating pig food, Lisa C didn't mean to give up. Li Guanqi, rest assured, it won't happen anymore, it won't happen anymore. Chen Juniang kept apologizing. But Mr. Li didn't see the silver, so he wouldn't stop and shouted, Why do you think it's easy for me? I woke up in the middle of the night and woke you up as soon as I fell asleep. I just took a couple of bucks. He said this. Chen Juniang understood that this was coming to extortion. It was said that the money was too unreasonable, but his orphans and widows had to spend money on disaster relief. Chen Juniang's money was deducted every month and she was reluctant to use it. In the end, she was knocked clean by others. At the end of the month, she was tense at hand, and after touching the sleeve in her sleeve for a long time, she twisted out a small silver ladle and handed it to Li Laozi. Li Guanqi, we orphans and widows, I haven't bothered you a little, that's a trivial matter. Not an orphan and widow, I'm not bullying you yet. The fourth old man snorted coldly, holding silver at hand, and was a little dissatisfied, which is too little. I want to send me the silver. Lao Si took one hand and threw that little silver in front of Chen Juniang, and cursed, I will report to my grandmother early in the morning, saying that you are noisy in the middle of the night, drive you out of the general's house. Chen Juniang was in a hurry. Their mother and son depended on nothing, and the world was difficult. If they were out of the general's office, it would be even more miserable. This was what she was most worried about, but the point was that she had no money at all. Li Guanqi, you have to bear more. This silver is held first, just as I owe you, and I will pay you back when the money is sent out above. Chen Juniang quickly picked up the silver, crammed it to Li, and continued to make trouble. It's almost the same. The fourth old man put away the silver mule, and said fiercely, 2 or 2. Yes, 2 or 2, Li Guanqi, you walk slowly. Chen Juniang was relieved, but she was still worried. There were several days before the monthly money was issued, and there was no such penny. Li Laozi achieved his purpose, turned proudly and left, but turned around, but saw Ye Kong, who had always been demented, holding a brick, blocking the entrance of the hospital. Yair blew his chest, and the flames of anger raged in his chest, as if to be sprayed out at any time. Too much. Even rogues and rogues are not so excessive. Just shouting in the night, crying twice will be blackmailed. What is the truth? What's more, knowing that your family is out of money, you have to make an appointment for the next month's money. Have you, the beasts, ever wondered how our mother and son live without money? Have to force people to death. When he first arrived, he knew to be low-key, he also knew that the impulse was the devil, and he knew that he would take a step back. It's not his character to swallow it. It's not his job to bow his grandson. If you endure it, you will become a ninja turtle. Let down the silver and apologize to my mother. Otherwise you can't get in or out of this door. Ye Kong seemed to be returning to Hansheng Street, standing crooked, holding the brick in his hand, his eyes narrowed slightly, his brows scorned, and his face still had a cold smile on his face. Yo huo, then Li was shocked by today's Ye Kong. He said that the boy had a sharp voice and his temper had grown. Could he really be stupid? But even if he is not stupid, but a child, what if he is not stupid? This old Li was surprised but not afraid, and sneered, I'm not stupid anymore. I will treat myself as a grandfather. If you talk to me like this, be careful, I will make you stupid again. The fourth old man thought that this child was just a bluff with a brick, and he didn't dare to really shoot. This fool used to call the chick poor when he watched people killing chickens. Shooting bricks, can he go down? But who knows, Ye Kong's strength in using bricks to slap people is his strengths. Those who have suffered from bricks have not 1,000 or 80. There is no such thing as not saying that they can't do anything. Bang, a brick was patted on Lisa C's face without a doubt, and he snored. Long nosebleed, Lisa C hurriedly squatted down and pinched his nose. Empty child, don't. When Chen Juniang saw such a fight scene, she rushed over and pulled Ye Kong. Mother, Ma Shan is riding, human beings are being deceived, the more weak and deceptive you are, the more such evil slaves will step on their noses. Hey, I want to make them understand that there is one more in this courtyard. The wicked that cannot be bullied. After Yekong said his teeth were glaring, he pushed Chen Juniang away, and according to the fourth son Li squatting on the ground, he rounded the bricks and faced his brain again. Well, Lao Si screamed, and as soon as his legs were soft, he knelt down, shouting in his mouth, "Don't hit, you're going to kill someone." "Apologize," Yekong shouted loudly. "I apologize." Then the fourth old man was fooled by the two bricks. He just felt blood on his head and face. When he saw Yekong brick going down, he quickly hugged Yet. The empty leg begged loudly, "Master number 8 is the old slave. I will not open my eyes, and ask Master number 8 to leave the old slave with the dog. Isn't her mother saying that she didn't need to be beaten up? The slave is just not having eyes." Yekong smiled cruelly and patted Li's fourth mouth with a brick, which made Li fourth really feel the other side's terrible. "I don't have long eyes, old slaves will never dare," Li Lao said as he took out the silver mule from his sleeve, but he hated poisoning Yekong mother and son in his heart, thinking with resentment, he must tell when he turned back. "Second lady, let her clean up you. Are you trying to report to your master? How could this little idea conceal Yekong?" He rolled his eyes. "Tell you, I'm not afraid. Do you know what Lao Tzu did before? Lao Tzu is a rogue." "Who?" "I messed up with him, I will kill him. Remember? Lao Tzu is still the last name yet. You want to teach Lao Tzu unless the Ye family is dead. Empty, forget it, forget it." Mother Chen Juniang hugged Yekong's arm again, for fear that he would not be light or heavy, it would be bad to kill him. "Get off," Yekong said. Lisa C covered his head and face, and then dared not turn back and fled. Chen Juniang sighed, "Well, Kong what's wrong with the general who got angry? You can cause trouble to the mother." Yekong Chi finished Lisa C, and he felt much better, but he thought that Lisa C would definitely go back to find someone to take revenge, and he was just a 12-year-old boy. How can he fight the storm? Only to make yourself stronger. Step down everyone who bullies you. Yekong strengthened his confidence. Now that you are here, do your best, rather than stand dead and live on your knees. Let's not lose face to the hooligans of the earth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 4. Chapter 3. MRS second, you have to make the decision for my fourth son. Wow, look at his face. What a fool is so vicious. The next day, at dawn, Li Sixiao was with his wife. Led to the second wife's room, she cried and complained about Yekong's violent behavior. Being beaten by a fool, the second wife burst out a laugh and pointed at the old man kneeling on the ground. "You are too helpless. What do you want to say to the fool? He hits you and you hit he did, and came to me to cry." "No, MRS second," the fourth old man quickly explained. "That kid is not stupid, he speaks smoothly, and he hits people unambiguously. When he fights, nothing like the idiot who likes to smirk. Listen." His mother said that as soon as he woke up, he suddenly got better. No, the second wife heard Yekong's mind work, but was not quite convinced, and asked, "It's been silly for more than 10 years. How can I say good?" "Yeah, but he's not really stupid." Lao Si sighed and held back his head and mourned, "MRSU, you master the old slaves will stop the noise in the middle of the night, this kid is too lawless." Of course, Lao Si would not be stupid enough to say that she wanted money from Chen Juniang. On the contrary, in order to stir up the anger of the second wife, he also said, "The ugly woman does not stop her son from seeing the murder. She knows that I am the slave." The second wife, this is obviously despising the second wife. They hit the dog and do not look at the owner, this is the person who lost you. The second wife was very good looking, and immediately heard this, she was a little angry. However, she is not a mindless person. Chen Juniang has always been honest and she dares not do anything extraordinary, which is very clear to her. And I still do not believe it. How could that fool say okay? I'll just stand for it. You go back first, oh, go to the counter and get 2 pieces of silver to heal the wound. Mrs. thought about it. Li's wife heard that there was silver, and was a joy, but it was in exchange for men's blood. Fool, you just wait to be kicked out of Yefu. She thought with a grudge, and nodded at Mrser. Mrser. The fourth old man also scratched his head and followed his wife to exit the door. The fool is not stupid, he will hit someone again. The second wife thought for a moment, then shouted in a deep voice, Little Red. Mrs. Second, slaves are here. Xiaohong is her eldest daughter. She is 15 years old, but she has already been born, and more importantly, she is clever and smart, and she can handle things. Did you hear what Lisa C said just now? What do you think? Mrser asked. The slaves didn't quite believe that the fool would be okay. Ordinary people would smirk. Other people threw stones at him, he didn't know how to hide. Bachan Li was trying to blackmail Chen Juniang, but he accidentally broke. That's where I came to play. This Little Red is a clever girl, and she can analyze some eyebrows in the blink of an eye. Well, the second wife obviously believed in Xiaohong's analysis more, but she felt that Li Si was afraid to lie to herself, so she ordered, go to the ugly woman's yard and see for yourself if the fool is okay. Yes, Xiaohong commanded, and stepped out of the lotus step. Xiaohong went out, and the second wife snorted coldly. Whether it is true or not, I just happened to drive the ugly woman out of the house, so the ugly would like to live in Yefu. It is really the person who lost Yefu. Yekong was lying in a daze on Chen Juniang's bed at this moment. He was a bit tired last night. He talked to the cheap mother and fell asleep. However, those chats still made Yekong very rewarding, letting him know Angguo, or the Kangnan continent that emphasizes martial arts. If you want to get ahead, you must be like Harem, and you can practice martial arts well before you can join the army. Enter the DPRK and become a respectable and decent person. Yekong asked again how many people there were in the Kangnan continent, where was it outside the Kangnan continent, whether there were any immortals, and so on. Chen Juniang couldn't answer. After all, she didn't have much knowledge. Staying in the general's embroidery patch has taken up most of her time. Where can I find these gossip news? I don't know much about Nguo, and less about foreign news. But the goddess, she heard someone say, I heard that someone saw a fairy flying on a sword flying over the southern capital. But she hasn't seen it with her own eyes, but according to legend, there are still some immortals. As for how many? Where is it? These were not all she could know. When he woke up in the morning, Yekong lay on the bed and wondered. The main thing now is that if you live, this is a world that advocates force. If you want to make a living in this world, you must have strong strength, you can get ahead with it, or you can only be bullied by others. Although his dad is a general, he seems to be unreliable, and he is neither willing to leave his destiny to be controlled by others, nor to rely on others to survive. So strengthening yourself is the only way out. On the earth, Yekong is a hooligan who sees and hides personally. Although he has cut people and shot people with bricks, he has only been brave and hard. He has never really learned martial arts and met masters. Can't beat anyone at all. He thought about what other abilities he had, but after thinking about it, he suddenly found that he didn't have any abilities. He wouldn't make soap or make guns. He couldn't remember 2 poems about Wu Wen and his 3 feet. The cat's rumbling couldn't hold Yaharan's slap. He found for the first time that he was so useless that he was almost no different from an idiot. How can we strengthen ourselves? Chen Juniang, who was sitting, was busy embroidering her hands, but she watched her son blinklessly. She was a little worried. Will her son be better all night, and then he will regain his affection the next day? It seems that her worry is still very likely. When she saw her son woke up, she looked at the top of the mosquito net, and for most of the time, she did not blink, and her eyes gradually dispersed. Did she say she was stupid again? The son is her only hope. I just saw a little hope, but don't do anything else. At present, Chen Juniang wanted to call her son, but unexpectedly, Yekong suddenly stood up, sat up, and suddenly said, "Learning, only learning, learning and hard training can make yourself stronger." This sound startled Chen Juniang, who was about to open her mouth. She stunned her hand with a needle in her hand, and a bright red blood stream leaked out. Ah, Chen Juniang whispered softly. I saw Yekong a shocking spirit, and got out of bed barefoot, holding his maid's finger in his mouth. Mother, it's okay. When he spit out his fingers, the blood was no longer seeping. Kuo is okay and sensible. Chen Juniang smiled on her face and looked at Yekong with some wet eyes. Yekong was an orphan on the earth. He had never felt motherly love since he was a child. He felt his mother's eyes made his nose sore, which was a very unpleasant feeling. Don't watch, what's so nice about it? It just looked like a long time ago, Yekong said unhappily. Mother doesn't look at mother or not. Chen Juniang was happy but with a nasal sound, but still looked at her son. I'm going to pee. Yekong escaped out of the door. The hut is not far away. I went there last night. Rogue habits are difficult to change. Yekong swayed out, shaking left and right, and met a few daughters-in-law, all of whom peeked at him with a strange look. Look, this is the fool Yekong. Don't look at him as the general's son, but it's better to be a subordinate. A family member in the back pointed at Yekong with a finger. Another newcomer who appeared to be doing something at the door whispered, I don't think he looks like a fool. How unlike, he's a fool, snotting and laughing at people all day. Xianxia nodded at Yekong's back. The masters in the house also compiled a smooth song, Yekong Yekong, empty their heads. The old man was afraid that the newcomers did not believe it, and said, don't believe it, last time they hit him with stones. Don't believe me, I will show it to you. Yekong didn't care about such a thing, but he didn't hear it when he heard it. But I heard that the family was going to smash him with stones. He was annoyed. You and your fairy are stubborn. I've tricked you into messing you up. What's wrong with the fool? Don't you understand the protection of vulnerable groups? Who's going to hit me? Yekongfu turned up a flower pot beside the road and walked up. Are you going to smash me? Yekong held a flower pot in one hand, and poked the other finger on the chest of the family. The old man had a look on his face. What did this fool say? However, he couldn't even think about it. The small stone in his hand was not a heavy weight compared to the flower pot. I'm not going to smash you. Hometown Ding can also be tricky, and quickly put the stones into the hands of Xianxia Ding. That's you, Yekong stared arrogantly. The gangster's anger burst out, and his finger poked on Xianxia Ding's chest again. No, I didn't, it was him. The old man knew that he had to reveal the filling, and he didn't wait for his comrades to finish speaking, then turned around and ran, and as soon as he ran, the new home man followed. Damn, so timid, still want to throw me a stone, Yekong snorted and threw the flower pot back. But in the distance, two Dings shouted in panic, the fool hit someone, the fool hit someone. Damn, the fool's hat is really hard to pick. Yekong smiled helplessly, shook his head and walked to the latrine. Laughing at people is a fool. Hit someone, still a fool. One is a maniac and a maniac is a lunatic. Being treated as a fool, Yekong is very upset. Since Lao Tzu is crazy, then go crazy in the end. Going to the latrine during the day is not as quiet as at night. Along the way, I also saw a lot of passers-by. Yekong, regardless of whether he knew or not, all rolled his eyes. For those who have no eyesight, he directly picked up the roadside flowers basin intimidation. Not to mention, it worked. Those families saw him coming and all were scattered. But there are also not afraid. No, another beautiful niece came across and looked up secretly, but found that Yekong was staring at her, and the two came in contact. Huo huo. This little uncle did not hide. Yekong was even more upset. Previously, he was on Hansheng Street, and those passers-by were so glared that he did not dare to provoke him and walked down. Yekong stared sharply, and walked towards the little sister-in-law. Maybe it was too aggressive for him to be a hooligan, then Xiao knew that he was scared and ran away in a hurry. I heard Yekong hippie shouting with a smile behind her face, "Beautiful sister, don't go away, Fangling geometry, there are no in-laws, how many loved ones? Spring is blooming, all things are recovering, let's discuss the major events in life." Asterisk. Jack. Goods. From a flower-lined window in the backyard of the general's mansion, a woman's scolding came. Harem's women are the same, but in contrast, they are different. This is a luxuriously decorated woman's room, which is better than Chen Juniang's room in the corner of the front yard. I don't know how many times. But even so, some people still feel that it is not enough. They must drive Chen Juniang out of the rundown small yard, and don't even want to give a place to stay. The reason was that Chen Juniang was ugly and made her look uncomfortable. The second wife, who was scolding herself, was even more fancy in satin and her body was full of noble lady's breath. At the moment she was screaming at the table and roaring. This ugly woman really doesn't pay attention to her old mother. And her hybrid cub. Blind his dog's eyes, even dare to tease my big girl. And the beautiful sister-in-law who was scared away by Yekong was standing in front of her. This maidservant was Xiao Hong, who went to inquire about the second wife. Dare to look at Yekong because it is backed by the second wife. MRS second, it's not cost-effective to dispel the fire with this popularity. Xiao Hong was not only beautiful because she was able to win the favor of MRS. Yeah, mother, what's mad with a fool? Drink a glass of water. Wen, the second wife's son, also helped. Wenian Fangxia was born strong and mighty, but don't think he is a reckless man, in fact he is cunning. Of course, he practiced martial arts under the guidance of famous teachers since he was a child. A set of Nankang Tongjiquan has been practiced with little success, which is the best among the descendants of the Ye family. Well, the second wife took the ginseng tea handed by Wen and took a sip. Suppressing the anger with ginseng tea, the second wife was much calmer, and said lightly, "Since this boy will be teasing the girl, it seems that this fool is really not stupid." "Yes, not stupid at all, speaks fluently." Xiao Hong nodded. Wen, who was standing aside, was really upset. "I didn't find a chance to make fun of the girl in our room. Damn it, you were a fool. Mother, you must teach that fool this time, no matter if he is stupid or not, you have to make him suffer." Wen flashed a fierce light in his eyes. "Well, but I have to think of a better excuse for this." The second wife pondered. "I asked Li Laosi again just now, and his wife-in-law was not there, and he told me the truth. The actual situation was him. I wanted to blackmail and was beaten by that kid. If we ask him again for this reason, if the general asks him later, we won't stand up. What's the point with a fool? In my opinion, go and kick him directly and let him stop." Wen hugged his arm and snorted again, "It's not that he didn't hit him." The second wife shook her head. "Don't be reckless. According to the fourth son of Li, this fool is not only stupid, but also clever and savvy. His words are dripping, so don't let him drill holes and give birth to many wrongs." Wen Ha smiled, "The child also has a way to beat him. He still has nothing to say, even in front of his father, it doesn't matter." The second lady's eyes lightened. "Talk about it." Wen whispered to Mrser's ear, and said Mrser, with an eyebrow, smiled. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 5. Chapter 4, Breaking into the Inner Courtyard. Well, why is it so small? In the hut, Yekong couldn't bear to slacken his pants after peeing. At that moment, the cottage came in again, and Yekong could not look at it any more. He put on his pants and stared at the family again. Not to mention, this hooligan suit really worked. The kid was scared and almost urinated into his pants. In fact, this is also the family members in the outer courtyard. These are all unscrupulous escorts. If Yekong goes to the backyard, those family members are all trained soldiers. Why would you be afraid of your child? Actually, it's good to come to a different continent. At least you don't need to deal with monogamy. When Laozi gets rich, he also needs to build a large yard. The elder sister and daughter-in-law raise a group. You can bring a few evil slaves when you are idle. Going to tease a little lady on the street, this little evil is also very happy. Yekong became more and more happy the more he thought, but the current situation made him worry. For the ideal of evil in the future, I still have to work hard now. Learn. Be sure to learn. Mother, I want to practice martial arts, I want to read. Yekong ran back to his own courtyard and yelled. But to the disappointment of Yekong, Chen Juniang had no money. You need to know that education requires investment. There is no compulsory education. Many people can't afford to go to school. It's okay to study literature. Learning martial arts is a huge expense. The greatest martial artist also needs a month or two. Chen Juniang can't afford it? Those who have money, in fact, they have a tight budget for their monthly meals. After Chen Juniang was not stupid, she was still wondering, but she couldn't think of any way. Now the son asked, she just sighed and shook her head, feeling sorry for her son. Empty child, rest assured that the mother will work hard to do embroidery. I have asked Aunt Li and let them help me with embroidery outside, so we will have the money to ask a martial artist. Chen Juniang comforted Yekong. Looking at the pile of clothes in front of the old woman, Yehalo was sour. Every day in the house, the old lady must do 3 or more nights. If she takes the embroidery work outside, when do you want to sleep? Mother, don't be too hard, this is not an urgent matter. Yekong felt that he couldn't help getting wet in his eyes, holding Chen Juniang's hands and choking. Fool, you are really happy, there is such a good mother. Don't worry, I will be stronger. Let your mother live a good life. Because she is also my mother. Yekong's heart really took Chen Juniang as his mother. Yekong controlled his emotions and asked, doesn't the education father of the son care about it? He has to pay for his mother's money. How do you learn from other houses? Chen Juniang replied, 2 of the 2 wives' families are senior martial arts teachers who have been invited from her family. I heard that 1 month's tuition fee is 120 yuan. The 3rd wife also practiced martial arts before marrying the general. The 3 children of her family are she invited experts from the division to teach, and MRS 9 was the most favored. Her family Yeyu was also smart and clever. She was the first master in the army to be invited by the general. Yekong was furious. Her, and all of them had advanced martial arts masters. They were the first masters in the army. Damn, Laozi was so poor that I couldn't afford it. It was too unfair. Chen Juniang said with tears, it's useless to be a mother, Kong you are wronged. Yekong didn't want to be angry anymore, but it was the old mother who was angry and tortured. She suppressed the anger and comforted, Mother, don't worry about it, don't worry, don't pick up the embroidery work. The child has his own way, and the child should find one without spending money. Money is better than them. Chen Juniang laughed aloud, you are becoming more and more amused by your mother. A martial artist who is better than them, and does not spend money, how can there be such a good thing? Yekong Zhengzheng said, Mother, what I said is true, don't think that I'm kidding. As long as you use your brain, there is always a way to deal with it. You haven't used your mind for more than 10 years, and now your mother can't catch up with you. Chen Juniang smiled and patted Ye Kong's head, and suddenly her face changed. She thought of a very bad possibility. Empty child. Do you want to steal a teacher? This is absolutely impossible. Chen Juniang held Ye Kong's hand in panic. A martial arts cultivation method, internal skills and mentality, in the Kangnan continent that advocates military force, even martial arts moves are kept secret and must not be known to outsiders. If you want to learn martial arts, you have to worship the teacher and teach it by the master. If you do worship the teacher to steal the lessons, the consequences will be very serious. Who said I was going to steal the teacher? Ye Kong laughed. Mother, you want to break up? I want to practice martial arts with my dad. Don't you say that he has high martial arts, and when he was young, he didn't have any rivals? What do you think of my idea? If the general is willing to teach you, that would be better, but I'm afraid. Chen Juniang hesitated. Would Ye Haren teach her own son like her unseen person? How do you know if you can do it without trying? Ye Kong laughed and stood up. Mother, let's go to breakfast. After eating, I'll ask my father. The dining room was in a corner of the outer courtyard. Chen Juniang took Ye Kong and walked over. She hoped everyone knew that her son was fine and his mind was clear. Don't call him a fool in the future. However, it seems that the effect is not good. Chen Juniang was originally ugly, she was a silly son without power, and no one cares about her. She greets others, and everyone seems to be invisible. Others greet her. This situation will not happen. Hey, little boy. Chen Juniang called the name of a passing Xiajiating again. The boy was about to marry a relative, so Chen Juniang had no trouble to help him embroider. Chen Juniang wanted to open a breakthrough from him, but who knows, they didn't bird her at all, and wiped away from Chen Juniang's shoulders. Ye Kong was so annoyed that he pulled the little ding's clothes and he just pulled him. Where to go? My mother is talking to you. Oh, the puppy bit a hoe, blinked his small eyes without waking, and looked at Chen Juniang like an idiot. It's all right, I mean, my son isn't stupid. Chen Juniang was a little cramped. She wanted to say it smoothly, but it's okay to say nothing, but who knows that Ye Kong directly brought people to him. Oh, the puppy nodded, and she walked 2 steps like sleepwalking, scratching her head. Her son isn't stupid, what does it matter to me? Chen Juniang was a little embarrassed that no one of these family maids gave face. Of course Ye Kong would not hold anyone anymore. Use violent means to block the other party, and then tell the other party solemnly, I'm officially notifying you now, I'm not stupid anymore, now you can go. Isn't this sick? Mother, actually this kind of thing needs action to tell everyone. Ye Kong hugged Chen Juniang with one arm and laughed. Just look for an unlucky egg, and then slap him in public, just like last night. Lisa, see again, I promise, no one will look at me as a fool by noon. I have to say that Ye Kong's method is good, and Chen Juniang can't refute it, but she dare not let Ye Kong get into trouble again, and said quickly, Kong last night you hit Li's 4th son, you can't give her as a mother cause trouble. Don't worry, no one will mess with me, nor will I mess with him. Ye Kong smiled smugly. Hey, do you all bully me? Today you guys try to bully. Master, I'll wait. However, Ye Kong was disappointed. The diners in this courtyard are all maids. They are not as busy as the young masters. In the morning, when they are the busiest, they run away with their hoes, who can do nothing. What about a fool? And because Chen Juniang was worried about her son causing trouble, she took a bun and porridge, and hurriedly took Ye Kong back. Fortunately, the horse sister who liked to make herself difficult was not present today. Ye Kong's chance to hit Li Wei was bankrupt, but he didn't care, because he had a more important thing to do, and that was to see his father Ye Haren. Ergo, see your father, but don't make him unhappy. After breakfast, Chen Juniang cleaned Ye Kong's clothes without forgetting a few words of care. My son isn't stupid anymore, it's happy, but it looks like his son's temper is not so good, and he wants to get into trouble. Ye Kong laughed, Mother, you can rest assured, I am not stupid nor ramming, and I am fighting the old guy, am I not trying to die? I just went to discuss with him his 8th son's study, rest assured, I can't beat old guy, don't touch eggs with stones. Chen Juniang was still not assured, and she urged, empty child, don't talk back to your father, even the most favored you dare not answer him. If you have any words, you can't bear it. Mother knows you have a bad temper if he refuses, General, he said, you will suffer if you say a few words. No, I'm going. Ye Kong got his clothes on his feet and dangled out the door. Suddenly thought the rogue walked indecently. Well, we have to stand still, go straight, hey, cheap dad, our father and son are now ready to meet. Obviously, Ye Kong thought about seeing Ye Harem easily. On Earth, it's not a big deal for the son to see his dad. See him when he wants to see it. Doesn't he even go by himself? He just called and the dad appeared. But in Yefu, Kangnan continent, this is not the same and must be notified. Of course, if the other children are nothing, the report will be good. But this is not something else, for Ye Kong, it is not so simple. First, 2 family members in front of the inner court stopped him. 2 elder brothers, please be acquainted and let the younger brother go in, Ye Kong said with a smile to the 2 ding. Who is your elder brother, idlers, etc., you must not enter. The family member did not give Ye Kong a little face. Ye Kong heard that he was going to vomit blood. Lao Tzu was Ye Harem's son. Why did he become a waiter? Is your ding blind? 2 eldest brothers, I'm Ye Kong, the 8th son of General Ye, let me in to see my father, Ye Kong said in a furious mood. The second wife had been ordered by the second wife and sneered, I know you are Ye Kong, Ye Kong, Ye Kong, and your head are empty, ha ha. The 2 families laughed. One sang red face, and the other sang white face. Another older family member said, the younger respect calls you Master 8, doesn't let the young embarrass you. Master 8, the younger heard that you have a good brain today, but you also have to think about why the ladies auntie and young lady can live in the inner courtyard, but you alone in the outer courtyard? Hometown Ding paused and made Ye Kong himself understand that although he was the 8th master, he was not seen by the master and even hated him. Hometown Dinton paused and said, you just don't have to talk about it yourself, but don't put us on the board a little bit. Little ones advise you to go back. Ye Kong didn't expect Ye Hao to hate him so much, it wouldn't work to meet him. This is too much. But he couldn't be angry at his smiling hometown either, so he begged, brother, it was before, now I'm not recovering well. Please go in for a pass, wait for me to get the reward, don't forget 2 older brothers. The young man sneered sarcastically, I got the reward? I'm afraid I got the board? It seems your brain is still not good, sorry, we don't want to be beaten with you. It's so hard to see your father if you doesn't let in, and you doesn't give it to you. Ye Kong was so angry that he pointed at Jiading and rebuked, what did your kid say? Believe it or not, I will let you be beaten now. The Ding turned back to the inner courtyard and shouted, come here. Come here. Someone broke into the courtyard. Your ancestor. I really broke through today, Ye Kong roared, and the old fist hit him on the face that he owed. Who is good at breaking into the inner court? Doesn't he know yes rules, and those who break into the inner court are punished by assassins? With a scream, a white-faced and heroic young man came out with a dozen waists behind a sturdy soldier with a park knife. Ye Kong swept away the memory of the fool to himself, and realized that the man was the second wife's son, Ye Wen, the second master of the Ye family, and behind him was the Ye family who was known for his fierce sturdiness. Ye Kong didn't have to deal with a few family members, but he was well known to the master of martial arts and the famous Ye family. It was the second brother Ye Wen ranked the second child, so he was the second master. Ye Kong quickly hugged his fists and said, "I want to see my father, but the evil slave doesn't open his eyes. How can I prevent my son from seeing my father?" Ye Wen and others guessed that Ye Kong was going to see Dad. He had been waiting for a long time. He smiled at the moment and replied with the words he had already prepared. "Ba, you are really good. I am so relieved for my brother. You do nt you know, when you are unconscious, you do nt know how much you care for your brother. Yes, care is abusive and fist." Ye Kong hated it, but he didn't show it on his face, and smiled, "Thank you for the second brother. Rest assured, the younger brother will know what to do." Gratitude. Afraid of revenge? But with your strength, you have no chance in this life. Ye Wen didn't say anything. Pai Ziro said without a smile, "That's right, brother Er is always welcome." Ye Kong didn't want to talk to him, and said, "Since the second brother is here, can the younger brother go in to see his father?" Ye Wen smiled. "It's not impossible. The key is that my father recently thanked his guests behind closed doors. Let alone you, even me, can't see you." Ye Kong didn't know the truth of what he said, but he knew that if he wanted to see Ye Harem today, it would be impossible. "Thank you so much," my brother said goodbye. Ye Kong made a poke and turned away. "Elder brother, don't be busy." Ye Wen followed with a smile on his face and said, "Elder brother, you want to see your father? Recently, there is no hope. Even if you climb the wall and enter the inner courtyard, there is a guard outside the father's room. It's still a second to see him, but if he irritates his father and gets aboard, he will lose a lot." Ye Kong replied coldly, "This second brother cares nothing." Ye Wen was not excited by his tone, and then laughed, "I have news, so I can rest assured that in 10 days, you will definitely see your father." The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 6. Chapter 5 Competitive 1. "Oh," Ye Kong stopped and looked at Ye Wen suspiciously. "Is this kid so good? Dedicated to nothing, a weasel looks like a chicken to the new year. 8 brother, in a few days, it will be a monthly competition. My father will have to watch it. At that time, won't you be able to get what you want?" Every month's competition, Ye Kong really didn't understand, only after Ye Wen's explanation. It turned out that in order to test the martial arts of their children, Ye Harem also let their children have more exposure to actual combat. Therefore, at the beginning of each month, we set up a competition in the competition field. In the competition, everyone caught a comparison test to determine the competition and reward the winners of the competition. Ye Kong was silly before and did not learn martial arts, so he never participated. "Oh, that's the way it is." Ye Kong nodded, so Ye Harem could really be seen, but Ye Wen's sinister intentions were also clearly revealed. The kid wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to beat and insult himself during competitive competition. "Is there any rules for this competition?" Ye Kong asked. "The children of the Ye family are very different in age. It would be unfair to have Ye Wen go to compare with 8-year-old Ye Yu." Ye Wen saw his thoughts and laughed. "Of course, every 3 years old, the children of the Ye family can only find opponents in the age group. In fact, Ye Wen only said one. In competition, there is another rule, that is, challenge. Regardless of age, the other party can challenge you. You cannot refuse, but you can find a helper." At the beginning, Ye Harem set such a rule, so that the children of the Ye family could help and cooperate with each other, so as not to be arrogant and arrogant. This loophole was used by Ye Wen. Imagine a fool at Ye Kong. Brothers and sisters discriminated against him. Where can he go for help? The final outcome was only a pain for Ye Wen. And, more importantly, every month in the future, you can savage Ye Kong uprightly. At that time, Even if the second wife didn't drive him away, he couldn't take it anymore and asked to leave Yefu himself. This is Ye Wen's poison plan to the second wife. But even if it is grouped by age group, I haven't practiced martial arts at all. Do I have to participate? Although Ye Kong didn't know Ye Wen's plan, he didn't want to accept the move. Oh, all of you are trained by martial arts masters to practice martial arts from a young age, and let me fight with you one day without practicing? Is there any water in my head? But Ye Wen's words made him completely desperate again. If you refuse to participate without justification, get out of Yefu. Ye Kong was so annoyed. Was he going to be beaten on the ring like a sandbag? Damn, what rules do I have to commit suicide? Don't be discouraged. For each winner, my father will personally point out some martial arts skills and give rewards. Haha, you will have to participate at that time. Ye Wen threw away another tempting sweet date. After all, he also has to prevent Ye Kong Zhuang from selling madly to escape the competition. To be honest, Ye Wen's words still made Ye Kong moving. He would like to follow Ye Harem to learn martial arts. If he wins in the competition, then it is logical. But Ye Kong is also a self-knowledgeable person. He has not learned martial arts himself. What can he do to fight people? If it was the previous sturdy body, coupled with his desperate personality, the 12-year-old body is also malnourished, just like the bean sprouts, and it only has to be beaten. I want to learn martial arts. I want to be stronger. There was another voice roaring inside. If you want to give Ye Harem a high look, and then let the old lady live a good life, you can only fight for it. Even if he loses, he can show up in front of Ye Harem. Maybe he is willing to teach himself. Walking back to the hut from the gate of the inner courtyard, Ye Kong had already made up his mind. Go with. Must go. Never go back to be a fool. I have never been afraid of Ye Kong. Core, have you seen the general? What did he say? As soon as he went back, Chen Juniang hurried forward and asked. Ye Kong can't talk to her about sports, otherwise the old lady has to worry about death. Mother, father, he saw me well, I do and know how happy he is. He said that I am currently weak and unsuitable for martial arts. Let me exercise first, wait for my health, and then teach me Kung Fu, Ye Kong said with a smile. Chen Juniang undoubtedly had it, and tears happily again. Mother, find me some thick cloth, Ye Kong said quickly. What to do? Chen Juniang doubted. Exercise, from tomorrow. No, I will start exercising from now on. I must be stronger. Although Ye Kong did not have a martial arts instructor, the basic theories and methods of exercising on the earth are still understood. If you want to be a master, you need to exercise your strength, reaction, speed, flexibility, and resistance to attack. With these, even if you won in the next competition, you will not lose too badly. Ye Kong sewed a cloth pocket with the cloth found by Chen Juniang, and put dozens of large tiles in each pocket, then tied it to his leg, and began to carry weight training. Weight-bearing long-distance running, weight-bearing squats, these are the basic training for strength training and the most effective training. With less than 10 days left, he is short on time and cannot be delayed, so the intensity of training can be imagined. The tiles in the Kangnan continent are not light. The large black and cyan tiles, more than a dozen, have caught up with 2 red bricks, and tied on each leg. You know that he was a 12-year-old child, with 2 red bricks tied to each leg. At the beginning, he couldn't even walk, but he still insisted. Every day he ran around Yefu, he felt like he was falling apart, but a belief was supporting him. I want to learn martial arts. I want to be stronger. Ergo, you wipe the sweat. If you are too heavy, put less tiles on it. Although Chen Juniang was happy that her son was willing to endure hardship and progress, he couldn't bear to be so desperate. Mother, it's okay, I have to do 200 push-ups. Ye Kong gritted his teeth. He knew that his training was a bit too heavy, but he knew that if he wanted to get the fastest results, it would be to overload. Training, only if you exceed your own load, can you continuously improve yourself. Time and time again, beyond the limits of the body. Every night, when he was lying exhausted on the couch, he felt sore body, every joint and every muscle was sore, but he was very happy, he knew his muscles were growing, his joints were strong, that kind of it feels like countless ants crawl in the muscles, as if their muscles are strengthening. A few days later, all the families in Yefu saw that in the morning, a small figure ran on the trail. At noon, he hit his hands with fine fists in the woods like crazy. At night, he appeared by the pond again. Jump into the water and swim back and forth a few times. I heard that the fool is okay? Why is it happening again? There is no such training method in Kangnan mainland, which makes the families very puzzled. Surely stupid again, how can any good person be okay to hit the sand? Doesn't the hand hurt? Yeah, this fool is really good enough to fight. We can't take it anymore. He beat for half an hour. Hurry on, hurry on. Fool has a bad temper. I don't want to hit his fist. At the end of the month, heavy rain and heavy raindrops crackled down. Everyone hid in the room, even the small animals hid under the tree. But Yekong was still running in the heavy rain, as if he couldn't feel the heavy rain wet his hair, clothes, and whole body. The rainstorm is getting bigger and worse, the whole world seems grey, and the ears are full of brushing sounds. On the second floor of a building in Yefu's inner courtyard, a pair of young boys in Jinyi stood by the window, watching Yekong running downstairs in the rain. Brother, what is he doing? Could he be more stupid? Yewu, the second son of the second wife, asked. He is exercising and wants to win in the competition, Yewen said with a smile. Exercise like this? Is he torturing himself? Yewu said doubtfully. If I didn't guess wrong, this is a method of refining bones and bones. Yewen was sober, he didn't think Yekong was going crazy. The method of practicing musculoskeletal skin outside? Isn't the master teaching us, martial arts are from the inside out, Yewu said, and asked worriedly, brother, do you think he will succeed? Yewen sneered dismissively, from the outside to the inside, you can get half the work with half the effort. Yewen snorted, pushed the window and walked back into the room. Yewu also laughed and followed up and said, brother, let me have the chance to challenge him this time. I have wanted to be a fool for a long time. It must be nice to meet him in front of everyone. Haha, once a month, rest assured, you have a chance. No, I heard that Yelong Yehu in the third room also wanted to take advantage of him in public to cheer him up, and I was afraid they would be taken first. Yewenha laughed long and long. A fool is a fool. Everyone wants to make fun of him, and I don't know whose hands he will die in. The rain stopped at night, and a round moon as large as a desktop rose up. This Kangnan continent is different from the Earth. The Earth's moon has more curved days and fewer rounded days. The moon in the Kangnan continent, however, has more full moons, and Yekong guesses that it is the angle of the sun. At this moment, he had finished swimming, lying on a smooth white rock by the pond and sniffing the air after the rain. He could even feel the energy in the air, which was a powerful but gentle force, which made he thought of Xianxia again. If you can absorb this pound of thin power in the air and repair it for your own use, how powerful it is, Yekong could not help but sigh. In the past few days, he also knew a lot of family members and inquired side by side. He was surprised to find out that only he could feel the power in the air, which made him believe that he could cultivate the immortal. However, there is no immortal to take him at present, and the method of cultivating spiritual energy cannot be known at all. He is unable to use base hand when he is free, so he can only temporarily put down this idea and exercise with peace of mind. After a few days of overload training, the effect was still remarkable. Although it was only a few days, he obviously felt that his arms had become thicker, his strength had increased, and a layer of cocoons had formed on his fingers. Athletics, I'm not afraid of you, Yekong shouted at Yuanyu. Enquili, the second day of August, the day of competition has arrived. Mother, I went to see my dad in the inner court. Yekong had breakfast and got up to go out. Wait a minute. Chen Juniang stopped Yekong, stood in front of him, tidying his clothes, and whispered, Cure, see your father, don't make him angry. If he scolds you, he will bear. Don't hit him. Relax, don't be mad. Yekong walked out the door with a smile. When Chen Juniang looked at her son's back, she suddenly had 2 lines of tears on her face. She is not stupid. From these days Yekong's performance and the gossip in her ears, she already knew that her son would participate in the competition in the inner court. But in order to let Yekong exercise in peace, she didn't say anything, pretending not to know. She was just worried that her son was fine, and these were what he had to face. But when Yekong went out, she suddenly had an idea. If possible, she would rather be stupid than let him be hurt. Once again at the gate of the inner courtyard, the gatekeeper's family members have been arranged, and hurriedly ushered in, leading Yekong to the Zaiwu Stadium. The northeast corner of Zaiwuchang is a classical Tang-style building with dense black tiles, high eaves, and a copper bell hanging under the eaves. There is a lot of space in the Zaiwu field, and the children of the Ye family stand in several rows according to their age. In front of them was a square-shaped platform that was 1 meter above the ground. Behind the platform, a long table decorated with curling clouds was placed, and a teacher's chair behind the table was empty. I heard that the fool is going to compete today. I don't know which of the children with the surname Ye started talking. Then lay him back. Haha, he's out of mind, I'm going to hit him again. He's been running every day recently, and he has sandbags on his legs. He probably thought the competition was a long-distance race. Haha. Ye Harem hasn't appeared yet, so the children are chatting loudly about the sky. Everyone laughs at this fool with the most disdainful words. Master 8, Yekong. Finally, in a briefing, Yekong walked in, and the figure blocked the sunrise that was shot at the door. Hearing this, the huge hall was suddenly silent. Everyone stopped speaking and turned to look at Yekong, who came in. Haha, my mind is empty. Quiet didn't last long, and everyone laughed out loudly after a mockery. The unscrupulous mockery was as harsh as an awl. Yekong's footsteps paused, and he looked at dozens of teenagers standing inside. These are his brothers, a father and a compatriot, but none of them cares about his thoughts. All laugh at wanton. Perhaps there was no one at all, treating him as a brother. Someday, you will all pay for today's rudeness. Yekong thought about it and reached his own age. Smiling a fool, really make you so happy. Suddenly a majestic voice came out of the stage. The laughter disappeared. Yekong finally saw his cheap dad Ye Harem lived for a long time. He had been in the army for decades. His tall body, tiger nose lion, and black huhu's beard looked quite powerful at a glance. The brothers were quite scared of this dad, and they all bowed their heads and said nothing, but Yekong was not afraid and looked up. Ye Harem's gaze was like electricity, and his eyes swept away, but he obviously didn't show much interest in Yekong, and didn't even pause when he glanced at him. He grunted a little, then ignored the matter just now, and greeted the housekeeper Ye Cai. Thin and shrewd Ye Cai hurried over to light a few incense sticks, and then Ye Harem led the children, scratching his head and thanking his ancestors. As soon as the simple ritual was over, Ye Harem announced that this month's competition started. After speaking, his eyes seemed to be sweeping Yekong. Damn it, Dad, you know that I have practiced martial arts, but you have spoken, have you obviously made me beat? Ye fasting slandered constantly, but there was no way. Listening to Ye Cai announced the arrangements of the teams. Yekong was arranged to practice against Ye Long in the third room. Looking at Ye Long, who was tall and strong, no less inferior to an adult, he secretly screamed. The first game was a competition between Ye Wen and Ye Wu brothers. There was basically nothing good to look at. Ye Wen really deserved to be the best among the descendants of Ye family. Although he obviously let his fellow brothers, Ye Wu was still unsuccessfully defeated. The second game was the second child in the third room. Ye Hu was in the fourth room. The two were of average age and similar strength. Ye Hu was known for his fierce strength, but Ye Kuang was known for his lightness and ingenuity. The two men fought for a long time and basically had little contact. Later, his physical strength was weak, and he was a little breathless. Finally, Ye Kang found a gap and kicked him off the ring. In the third game, Ye Long was against Ye Kong with the cry of the steward Ye Cai, the most anticipated competition began. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 7. Chapter 6 Athletic 2. The reason why everyone is expecting it is not because of how exciting this test will be, but because everyone wants to watch Ye Kong become ugly and see what this stupid man got into. Look, the fool is up. I don't know how many moves will be thrown out of office. I guess 3 tricks. Haha, then you overestimate him. I guess he will use his pants on the stage himself. Ye Kong listened to the endless irony and shook his head indifferently. Do you guys have a little sympathy and a little brotherhood? Please enlighten me. Ye Kong held his fists in both hands, and performed a salute to Ye Long. But he found that there was no reflection on the opposite side. Ye Long on the other side carried his hands on his back, raised his head, and pointed Ye Kong with a pair of nostrils. If you don't want to be beaten, roll yourself, Ye Long snorted. Although Ye Long is only 14 years old, he can be born taller than Ye Hu just now. He looks much smaller than an adult. He is obviously a strong player. To be honest, I just watched Ye Hu and Ye Kuang's test. Ye Kong himself was a little bit chill. He couldn't beat either the power type or the skill type. Everyone has practiced martial arts for several years, but he has only practiced long-distance running for 7 or 8 days, so he wants to easily defeat his opponent. This is impossible. Long-distance running and push-ups are not so effective. Get off your mother, Ye Kong, who had no chance to roar, swooped up. I have nothing, but I dare to die. How dare you? He scolds people, Ye Long shouted, and flickered aside. He thought that Ye Kong would definitely not compete, and he must admit defeat in advance, so he simply put himself in the position of deciding the opponent, hoping to defeat the opponent with his nostrils. But he was wrong. Not only did Ye Kong not retreat, he actually took the initiative to attack, which caught him off guard. Scolding you is still light? Damn, don't scold people. When I'm Guozheng. I'm a hooligan, Ye Kong scolded, punching and kicking at Ye Long again. However, Ye Long had also practiced, and Ye Kong's fistless fists and feet were easily blocked by him. Since you want to be beaten, don't blame Sibo for being polite, Ye Long flashed in his eyes, punching out with a fist. Ye Long, like Ye Hu, was also taking a fierce path. His fists were punched with a loud wind. Everyone in the audience can see clearly, Ye Kong began to fight a lot, and there was no move at all. It was full of loopholes. Ye Long was caught by surprise, but now Ye Long has stabilized. Ye's unlucky days also almost there. Ye Harem shook his head even when he saw such a fight. In fact, he also saw Ye Kong running in the rain. He still had some thoughts about the sun in his heart. Yes, so I also hope that Ye Kong can perform. But as soon as the connoisseur took the shot, he knew if it was there. Ye Harem saw at a glance that Ye Kong had no knowledge of martial arts at all. If you are not as physically fit, you have to learn from the previous Ye condition, and even run away, consume the strength of the other party, and then wait for the opportunity to defeat him in one fell swoop. Other side. What's your initiative? Aren't you trying to kill yourself? As long as the other party frees up their hands, they can slap you to death. From Yeharan's point of view, Yekong is not as good as Yelong in terms of warfare or combat power. Right now Yekong's fist must be defeated. Well, Yeharan sighed very slightly, waiting for Yekong to lose. However, the development of things is often beyond imagination. The so-called miracle is that when everyone is not optimistic, something amazing happens. Bang, Yelong's fist. Yekong didn't really escape, his fist violently hit Yekong's chest. However, it was surprising that Yekong did not fly out, but Yelong grinned. That's right, Yekong is not stupid. Before going out today, he saw an iron plate in his clothes, which was not thick, but it was enough for Yelong to take a hard hit on the iron plate. It was terrible. But even with the iron plate buffer, Yekong can drink a pot at this time. Yelong's fist still has internal power, which shocks Yekong's blood and turns blue. Athletic without armor, Yelong shouted, shaking his wrist as if to break. But this is not over yet. Yekong swelled with blood, and now he couldn't bear it anymore. He opened his mouth and snorted to the opposite Yelong. The two were standing very close. Yelong couldn't hide, this was sprayed on his face, his eyes couldn't be opened. Without vomiting blood. Without attacking eyes. Kill him while he is ill. This is Yekong's usual style, kicking in the middle of his pants. Yeah, Yelong gave a painful sigh, and that posture was wonderful. His face was covered with blood, his eyes were closed, his legs were tightly clasped, his hips were pinched, his left hand was holding the pants, and his right hand was hurting because of hitting the steel plate, and the shape was like the dance of Mike Jackson of without, attack, vital. Do not bring this or that, when I play with you, Yekong sneered, turned his head and spit out blood, walked over, squatted down, hugged Yelong's legs, and suddenly lifted. So Yelong, who had been expected, was thrown off the stage. The children of the audience were almost fainted, and their eyes were all startled. They had expected Yelong to win, but who knows this trick, but Yekong won. Everyone was surprised that Yekong made a foul, and he committed so many rules at once, which was too bold. In the face of Yeharan, he seriously injured his fourth brother. Yekong really didn't know how to write the dead words. Well. Everyone went to see Yeharan again, and saw their dad startled by this miracle, opened his mouth wide, and couldn't speak for a long time. The first to respond was Yelong's compatriot Yehu. He rushed out and hugged Yelong, raised his head and screamed, "Shameless thief! You have broken my brother by using illegal means. Are you afraid of family law?" Yeharan was also awakened, and stood up and shouted, "Come on, take Yelong down for treatment, and check off the descendants." Soon a few relatives came in and carried Yelong to the next door. Yeharan yelled at Yekong angrily again, "It is forbidden to wear armor, to prohibit the use of weapons, to attack the eyes and the vitals in the competition, don't you know?" Everyone in the audience immediately looked up with happy eyes. "Hey, boy, very arrogant, right? You won? You know, a rule that violates the rules is to blame 100 army sticks, haha, 400 army sticks. If your kid can't fight, I won't be named yet." But Yekong smiled bitterly. "Dad, I really don't know. No one told me this." Of course, even if Yekong knew, he didn't pretend to know it. "Who told you not to send someone to tell me?" Yekong continued, "There is a saying that those who do not know are not guilty. I really don't know that there are so many inaccuracies. At that time, I heard the second brother tell me that the rule is to catch and kill people according to their age. What are the rules? How can I know of them?" Yewen heard, "Good boy, you are mean enough, why are you dragging me into the water?" Seeing Dad glaring at him, Yewen hurried forward and explained hastily, "I reported to my father, I didn't say to catch and kill, I said to do a comparison test. You said, you are using this angle, standing like this, with such a smile, then shaking your head and shaking your head to catch the torture. Ye Kong settled on him, and also said that the expression of the action was manifested. You have less blood to spray, Ye Wen himself couldn't remember clearly 10 days ago. His refutation was weak, and he muttered in his heart, did I really say that he would kill? Don't pull these word games, Ye Haren sighed angrily and asked, I asked if you told him the rules of competition. Ye Wen thought the kid dared to spray me with blood, could I not spray you? I wanted to lie with my teeth now, but I looked up at my dad and panicked, thinking that at that time there seemed to be some soldiers present, and those soldiers could only be loyal to the father. No, Ye Wen was guilty and told the truth, and then explained, Father, I just told him the news, I didn't know he didn't know the rules, and I didn't need to. Okay, Ye Haren interrupted Ye Wen coldly, looked up at Ye Kong, and drank, even if Ye Wen didn't say this to you, you can't violate the rules. You know, these rules are on all the platforms in Angwo are forbidden. Everyone heard, yes, my father, wise, this is a national standard, you have nothing to say, can you still say that? But Ye Kong can still say I don't know. Father knows, Ye Kong said with his hands and fists. Everyone knows, Ye Kong is a fool. For 12 years, no one has taught me or told me anything. Do NT tell me? When talking about the national rules, do NT tell me the Ye family rules, because no one has ever told me. I do NT know any one of the big words, and I have never been out of the gate of Yefu. If my father punishes me with ordinary reason a fool, Ye Kong is not convinced. You, Ye Haren pointed at Ye Kong, but he felt a little irrefutable. He said to himself, you are a fool, but how do I feel that so many of us have been teased by your fool? General, then came in a soldier, interrupting the embarrassment inside. 4 young masters have completed a physical examination, with minor injuries, damaged knuckles, and others. The children and grandchildren are not significantly damaged. Resting for a few days should be able to recover. Hearing the results of the injury test, Ye Haren was relieved and waved, send the 4 masters back to rest, please the best Langzhong, use the best wound medicine. Then he said to Ye Kong, read that you don't understand the rules. This illegal punishment will be waived this time, and you will be punished to copy the rules of the competition 1,000 times. The children couldn't help but make a hissing noise, wouldn't the 400 army sticks hit? Copying the rules of the competition 1,000 times is too light. But even this, Ye Kong didn't want to do it. Father, the child is illiterate. Ye Haren was annoyed, fool, illiterate, is this all your skill? He snorted angrily, thinking that it would be impersonal for the illiterate to copy books, so he said, Ye Wen, since notice, you must inform clearly, you are also responsible for this matter, 1,000 times the rules of competition, punish you for copying. Ye Wen is really going to vomit blood. Oh, co-op fool hit someone, violated the rules, there is no fart, not even copying, I have nothing to do, but he will be punished. Is it logical? The child confessed punishment. Ye Wen helplessly saluted, turned his head, saw Ye Kong standing on the ring and smiling at himself. Fool, don't be too happy. See how you died today. At this time, I heard Ye Haren saying, Yehu, you don't have to stay, go back and accompany your 4th brother. Yehu did not leave, and said, Father, children will not leave, children will challenge Ye Kong today. Facing Yehu's eyes, Ye Kong was frightened and challenged. Can we still challenge? It took painstaking effort to win Ye Long. If you face Yehu again, why win? Who knew? Yehu just said. Ye Wen also said, Father, I have to challenge Ye Kong. Ye Kong took a cool breath. Damn, Yehu had already killed me, and he had a stronger Ye Wen. I asked you to provoke you. Why do you have to beat the water dog painfully? According to the rules, multiplayer challenge, the challenge of the oldest person is effective. Ye Wen is against Ye Kong. Ye Harem said. Hey, hey, I haven't asked for my opinion yet. Ye Kong quickly put his mouth in, and said, given that I am physically overdrawn today, I refuse to challenge. Can't refuse. You can't even refuse to be a sage in Japan. Ye Wen, have you calculated it already? But you can find a helper from the brothers and let it help you meet the challenges, Ye Harem said. Looking for help, Ye Kong looked back at his brothers in the stands, and said, where can I find any helpers here? Ask them to come up and die faster themselves. Can I admit defeat? Ye Kong thought about it again. He had never been a jerk, took his brother out to chop people, and found that the other side was several times his own, and he was not running? Waiting to be hacked? This is the way to go out. You can bend and stretch, you are the big husband. You can admit it, Ye Harem replied. Is there a penalty for giving in? No, but you are careful to be called a coward. Cut, I have been scolded for 12 years. Still afraid of the title of coward? Just when everyone thought he was going to give up, Ye Kong asked again, is there a reward for winning? Ye Hao even laughed, yes, I can reward you for your father, anything you need. As soon as Ye Kong's eyes lighted, shit, I'm fighting. Lao Tzu is by no means a calm person. Lao Tzu is here today to let Ye Harem teach himself martial arts. If you get the teachings of Ye Harem, the first master of Angwo, you will become stronger in the near future. Okay. I do. There was a snoring sound from the audience. This kid was too helpless. He actually wanted to win Ye Wen. It was too arrogant. At this moment, someone suddenly remembered something and shouted. No more cheating and fouling. Yes. This fool is too cunning to take off his clothes. Ye Harem waved his hand to signal everyone to be quiet, and then commanded, come, take Ye Kong to change clothes. Ye Wen, go and tell him about the rules of competition in detail, and wait for the other brothers to finish the test. The next competition is not good, and everyone may be waiting for the battle between Ye Wen and Ye Kong, so everyone in the competition is not spirited. In everyone's opinion, Ye Kong can't help it this time. This fool doesn't violate the rules, how can he win? But even so, everyone has different views on Ye Kong. First of all, this fool is indeed not stupid. Before, everyone was still wondering whether his rumor was not stupid. Today, no one doubts it. Second, that is, he is not only stupid, but also very shrewd, bold, and careful, dare to speak, and the wicked man is a must. He accidentally hits his way. After about an hour, the comparison test is over, and everyone is looking forward to the test. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 8. Chapter 7 Athletic 3. Hey, do you guys say anything wrong with the fool this time? I can't see it. He changed his clothes and knew the rules, so I can fight him for 2 hits, and I can easily beat him, not to mention Ye Wen. Theoretically, he must lose, but I always think that kid will make a name for himself. Haha, he didn't know how to live or die. If he breaks the rules again, see how he escapes the board. Challenge, Ye Wen to Ye Kong. With the shouting of the old housekeeper Ye Cai, Ye Kong followed Ye Wen from the sides to the ring. Second brother, Article 5 of the rule, is it forbidden to attack the opponent's face, eyes, crotch, etc., is it Article 6? Is it forbidden to use a hidden weapon? Article 7 is it not allowed to use weapons without permission? Ye Kong standing on the platform is still asking. Ye Wen was already tired of it. The boy didn't know if he was really stupid or fake stupid, so he told him the rules word by word, and he asked a lot of inexplicable and unknown questions. However, Ye Wen had already eaten his losses, and he didn't dare to agree randomly. After listening carefully, he nodded, yes. The second one, isn't it a failure to fall to the ground or the opponent's body completely left the platform? Ye Wen nodded, yes, you remember very well. Then if you jump up, your feet and your whole body all leave the ring, then you are defeated. Ye Wen is annoyed. He doesn't know how many questions he asks, how he thinks about it, how can he think differently from others. It's okay to leave in a short time. Ye Wen had so much patience, he was almost impatient. And Ye Kong wanted to ask again. Hey! You can't fight? Where are there so many questions? Ye Wen was impatient, he was already anxious to wait for this day to beat him. Well, hit it, Ye Kong reluctantly answered. Then you are careful, Ye Wen sneered, silly, you wait to be beaten. Fight with my mother, let you taste it today. If you look like a ghost, drink Lao Tzu's foot wash. Ye Harem sat on the teacher's chair and heard the conversation above him. There was a faint feeling in his heart. Ye Kong, the boy, had to play with ideas again, but he thought about it. In fact, this fool has never been liked by him. After all, his mother is so ugly, and he is so stupid. But since I heard that the boy is okay a few days ago, Ye Harem noticed it, and found that he has a very tough character, and said that his hot temper is very similar to his youth, so his impression of Ye Kong has changed. Today, when I saw it, I felt that the boy was interesting, with many tricks and endless stream of ideas. Even now, Ye Harem was a little looking forward to his tricks. You come, Ye Wen shouted in a pose. As the largest of the Ye family's children who did not leave the house, he still respected himself and did not take the initiative. But Ye Kong didn't rush up this time, but he hid from a distance and shouted, you tell me to go and I go, I'm so shameless. Want to lose face now? You fool. Ye Wen also didn't care about his identity. He was a little toe, light as a swallow, a mule turned over, and hit in the air. Damn, light work, Ye Kong cursed and fled to the other corner of the platform. Don't run, Ye Wen jumped back again. Ye Kong ran to the other side, scolding, I can't beat you, but can't you run? Do you think you can hide away? Ye Wen gave a sneer, raised his hand to pull up the front of his gown, shoved it into his waist, and shouted, don't say, you can't really run me. Ye Wen was too lazy to jump. He picked up his internal force, created wind under his feet, and rushed to Ye Kong. Fortunately, Ye Kong has practiced long-distance running with weights for a few days. Now he has no tiles on his legs and his feet are very easy. So they were on the stage, playing the eagle to catch the chicks. There was an uproar from the audience. No wonder this fool practiced long-distance running every day. Wasn't this used? Yehu still remembered his hatred, and he looked up at the ring and cursed, Ye Kong, you're practicing escape time? Haha, you really shame the Ye family. Ye Kong didn't have time to ignore him, and ran on the ring, but no matter how fast he was, how could he catch up with Ye Wen who had light skills and internal strength? The distance between the two was shortened quickly. Ye Wen had to hold his clothes several times. Fool! Let's die. As the distance approached, Ye Wen's eyes flashed a cold light, and his toes slammed on the ground. The strong rebound force made him flee like a white leopard. Nan Kang Tong arm fist, Ye Wen threw his fist violently, and the fist with internal force showed no mercy. Bang, one punch hit Ye Kong's heart without a doubt. Ye Kong, who was running, spewed a lot of blood, ran another 2 steps, and then planted on the ring. Huh, useless guy, that's it. With a punch Ye Wen went up and kicked the dog again, kicking Ye Kong off the stage. On the ground floor, a wide blood stain was dragged. Ye Wen won, and there was no suspense in the resort. The children of the Ye family suddenly found out that they were expecting the fool to be shot, but they didn't have much excitement. Looking at Ye Kong hanging on the edge of the platform, Ye Harem shook his head. The gap between Ye Wen and Ye Kong was too big. There was nothing to see in this test. When Ye Harem raised his hand, the steward Ye Cai announced the result, challenge, Ye Wen. Slow, Suddenly a voice rang out beside the ring. The crowd looked around and saw Ecchi standing under the ring, with one hand, pointing at the other. The other hand was holding onto the edge of the ring. The rules stipulate that losing ground or losing your body from the ring is a failure. And I have 4 fingers on the ring, so I haven't lost, Ecchi said squarely, as if he didn't know he had shamelessly heinous. Everyone booed, apparently protesting Ecchi's rogue style. Ye Wen smiled angrily, okay. Even if you are not defeated, then you come up, we will fight again. If you don't, I will be standing below. Anyway, as long as my body is on the stage, I will not lose, and you will not win. Everyone was stunned. The kid's face was thicker than the city wall, and he stood on the stage with his 2 feet. Has this not been lost? Ecchi. Do you want to lose face? Don't play if you can't afford to lose. Ye Wen's mother compatriot Ye Wu walked in front of Ecchi and cursed. You hold on to the loopholes in the rules. Hero. I wasn't a hero at all, I'm a hooligan. Ecchi gave a blank gaze, and said suddenly, the reason I did this is to make you understand that using rules is also a strategy. Using rules is also a strategy. Well said. Ye Hao even spoke in agreement, so there was nothing to say. Ecchi patted Ye Wu's shoulders, and said carefully, San brother, I know that it is difficult to understand the meaning of this statement with your intelligence, but now I and Ye Wen are still fighting, so please let me know. You rogue. Ye Wu flushed and went aside. Ye Wen sneered on the stage, since this is the case, I will let you completely leave the ring. Ye Wen finished, a tiger jumped, rushed over, volleyed a golden rooster independence, stepped on the heel of Ecchi's fingers. Ye Wen's skillful movements and elegant posture won the applause of other brothers. However, Ecchi only needs to raise his hand and put his finger to the other edge of the ring. You just left your ring room completely, Ye Wen shouted. It's okay to leave shortly, you said it yourself. Ecchi laughed harmlessly. Ye Wen was dizzy, and wanted to kick his stinky face, but also thought that the rules stipulated that he was not allowed to beat his face, but the boy stood on the stage and couldn't hit anything except his face. Then step on his hand. Ye Wen chased his fingers and stepped on the left and right feet alternately, while Ecchi used both hands together. Once on this side, then on the other side, this competitive game is no longer like a competition. The children of the Ye family don't know what to say. They know that Ecchi is a little embarrassed, but he doesn't make sense, staring at Ye Wen as if stepping on a mouse and Ecchi as if making a pancake. I don't know their game, what time to play. I don't know how long, Ye Harem can't stand it anymore. What kind of competition are you guys doing? It's too much fun. Do you still have my father in your eyes? Cough. Ye Harem coughed, trying to say something. Ye Wen was also annoyed, stomping on both feet, turning his head to see Dad, just twisted his head, his ankle suddenly tightened. Ye Wen shouted in panic, not good. However, Ye Wen is also a savvy person. He was pulled off the stage by Ecchi. Between this electric light and flint, his hand also caught the edge of the platform. Hey, you will use the rules, I will not. If you don't, you'll be foolish and shameless, buddy, who is afraid of whom? Ye Wen, also standing under the ring, put his hand on the ring and smiled proudly at Ecchi. The children of the Ye family have really collapsed this time. Today, this game has seriously exceeded their imagination. There is no one on the ring. Both players stand under the stage, and they have not lost. More and more drama. Ye Harem was about to get angry. But at this moment, the victory and defeat came out. Ah, Ye Wen called out, and it turned out that his wrist was bitten by Ecchi. No biting, Ye Wen shouted. No one, Ecchi snorted vaguely, his teeth biting hard again. Ah! You quickly release. Ye Wen was bitten in one hand and pushed Ecchi in the other, so both hands left the ring. You lost. Ye Kong spit out a piece of leather on the back of Ye Wen's wrist, turned over to climb the ring, and roared, I won. Cheers and applause, flowers and women are all absent. The children of the Ye family stared at Ye Kong with their eyes wide open, and said, what a matter, this boy is entangled, but he won. Think he won. Ye Harem also felt that he could not be counted as a winner, but think about it, and there was no reason not to do so. Besides, he also wanted to hear what Ye Kong wanted to ask. Challenge, Ye Kong Sheng. With the voice of the housekeeper, the children sighed, and thought one by one, wouldn't we be able to behave like this in the future? Ye Kong, although you are invincible, you can look at your father for your father. Even if you win, you now talk about what you need, as long as you can get it for your father. The children's eyes were stunned. Damn, this fool won the rogue, and there was a reward. They all speculated whether Ye Kong wanted silver or some valuable weapon. I want to learn martial arts, Ye Kong said anxiously. This is something you should have learned. It's not a requirement. I want my father to teach me. When Ye Kong made this remark, everything was uproaring. Even though Ye Harem had a lot of children, he had only taught his eldest son, Ye Wei, and the other sons were usually satisfied when he gave him instructions for one or two. What about the honor of guiding? If we really let the fool learn from his father, wouldn't we be better off as a fool in the future? The children of the Ye family all looked up at Ye Harem, all of them opened their eyes nervously, worried that Dad would really agree to Ye Kong. Ye Harem listened to this sentence, and his eyes were frozen, and he looked up and down at Ye Kong. Ye Kong's words surprised him, and it was reasonable to think about it. To be honest, he also wanted the Ye family to have his descendants inherit his sword and kung fu. The reason why he never taught his son was because he thought that each son did not have a good qualification for learning, for fear that they would humiliate Yejia's reputation. But after he looked at Ye Kong, he still blinked and his eyebrows dropped. Ye Kong looked at Huang at once, and quickly said, Father, the child has a clear mind now. I also want to take a look at it. Today I want to ask my father to teach me martial arts. In the future, I can share my concerns for my father and help the Ye family. Please rest assured that the child must practice winter, summer, and summer, and learn with an open mind and hard work, and he will never fall into Yejiafu's prestige. You have to change. Another request. Ye Harem mercilessly rejected Ye Kong. Ye Kong still did not give up, stubbornly said, Father, you didn't agree just now. If I win, you can make any request. Isn't it too important for my father to speak? Ye Harem shook his hand. It's not to speak for your father, but your qualifications are too poor, and more importantly, you have missed the age of martial arts. If you were a few years earlier. Ye Harem looked up and looked at Ye Kong. He said, you are 12 years old this year, and the bone structure has been shaped. It is possible to learn martial arts and take care of yourself. It is impossible to develop in the martial arts. So any martial arts teacher teaches you the same effect. It is okay to learn martial arts and protect yourself. It is impossible to develop in martial arts. Even if you put in more effort, it won't be a big deal. These words, like a thunderbolt on a sunny day, made Ye Kong silly. Originally, he wanted to start from martial arts, but now he is completely out of the game. He knows that it is impossible to have a prosperous day without practicing martial arts in the Kangnan mainland. Ye Harem also sighed and comforted, in fact, you don't have to be frustrated. You should be smart and nimble for your father to see you. You might as well give up your martial arts and write a splendid article. In the future, you can enter the room to assist the king and Guangzhou Yezu. Hearing Ye Harem's words, the brothers took a breath and looked at each other with joy in their eyes. It seemed that no one wanted to be crushed by a fool. But where do they know, Ye Kong, who is hopeless in martial arts, is about to embark on a more splendid Xianxian avenue. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 9. Chapter 8 Ambition. In the Zaiwu field, Yekong made no other demands on Yeharan, but Yeharan instructed the steward to increase his monthly money by 20 yuan per month. However, there was a small obstacle for the second wife in charge of the account. Can't give it? This fool has bitten the skin on my brother's wrist and should pay us for the soup and medicine. Ye Wulai, who returned to the room, stopped sharply. Yeah, then the is so shameless, actually standing outside the platform and still saying no to lose, biting people. Shameless, Ye Wen cursed as he tied the gauze. Ye Wu smirked again. The stupid man was so embarrassed to let his father teach him martial arts, and it was really overwhelming, and he didn't look at his garbage. Speaking of this, Ye Wen laughed. The fool thought it was beautiful. It was ridiculous. You didn't see his disappointed expression at that time, haha. Ye Wen smiled and touched the pain on his arm. He snorted coldly, his eyes flashing, and said, "Fool, sooner or later I will get this from you." At this moment their mother and second wife spoke. 22 silver should still be given to him. Don't let the general know that you are angry. Recently, you have been more disciplined in front of the general. I got a major news today. Oh? What news? Ye Wen and Ye Wu asked with interest. Then the three heads leaned together, the second wife muttered, the two brothers grinned, and their eyes were full of envy. So don't mess with that fool lately, rest assured, be obedient, stay at home, mother to supplement you, and strive to make you all qualified. Okay. There is a similar scene in the third wife's room. Mother, that Yekong is really abominable, you have to take revenge for me. Ye Long lying on the bed and cursed Yekong while humming. Yes, ma'am, you have to help the brother to report this revenge. This fool has become so tricky and fierce now that his father didn't punish him. It's abominable, Yehu said with an itch. Mrs. Third is also a martial arts person. She has a slightly more daring temperament than Mrs. Second, and cursed, useless things. If you can't fight by yourself, let the mother-in-law be a woman. What is it? Ye Long wailed, Mother, I can't beat it, it's his foul using treacherous. Mrs. San said again, listening to you, this Yekong is not stupid and very tricky and vicious, so you have to have a good relationship with him. Mrs. San looked at the two strong sons and whispered, you won't learn to use your brain, this fool is clever, and offended the second wife, let them fight each other? Do you understand? His ugly woman will not be loved by the general, so long as the second wife is overturned. Mother is this lord of the inner court. Oh, the two majestic sons then understood, and quickly nodded in praise. There is still a way for the mother. Mrs. San smiled smugly, and whispered, my mother heard a major news today. Asterisk. Yekong didn't know how he came out of Yeharan. He had been struck down by his father's words. Xuewu has no future. In other words, in the Kangnan continent, if he wanted to show off his strength and force his horses, he would lose his mind. Quit Wukongwen and write a splendid article? That's even more nonsense. Don't look at him talking about the truth. In fact, he is a person who does not love learning, otherwise he would not drop out of junior high school. He felt blank, and despaired. However, when he returned to his own courtyard and looked at Yin Yin's expectant mother, he had no choice but to smile and deal with two words at will. Yekong Kong was frustrated, and she lost her momentum in the morning. She took a wound, and responded to the old lady's words. After dealing with some lunch, she went into her house and froze. In the afternoon, the housekeeper Yesai came over to supplement the regular silver for this month, but Yekong did not come out. Although the second wife and the third wife all temporarily stopped because of the mysterious news, but Yekong was really hit by Yeharan. Not to mention the frustration in her heart, and she didn't have the heart to fight with others, hiding in the room as if demented. Chen Juniang saw that his son was wrong, but he didn't dare to bother. In the evening, after dinner, Yekong still didn't come out. Chen Juniang didn't dare to bother her son, so she had to bring a rice bowl to cook. The place where food is served is controlled by a fat woman. Don't look at her ugly. She is kind of narcissistic. She always hated why General Ye didn't think of herself. Even the ugly Chen Juniang gave birth to the general. So naturally she was very rude to Chen Juniang. Give it a little more, my child's body is recovering. Today I was injured again. I want to eat more, Chen Juniang whispered. The fat girl snorted ironically, what's wrong? My son is flattered when he recovers. He wants to ride on us. No, no, Ma, I just want to supplement him. Chen Juniang's eyes looked at the braised pork in the basin over there. Fat sister Ma gave a sneer and said with a sneer, eat more and fill your brain. She reached for a few extra cold hose that others did not want and threw them over the night. What Chen Juniang wanted to say, but finally left with rice and a bun. What else? None of these managers can be provoked. Don't look at them as subordinates, but they are all attached to them. This horse sister is a relative of the most beloved MRS9's hometown. Even if you report to the general, you are ugly. Does it make sense? Just bear it. Back in the courtyard, he put a few yellow cold buns in his house, and then knocked on his son's door and put the food on the table. Ye Kong thought about it for an afternoon, and the more he thought, the more he felt that he was wearing the wrong one. It is okay to learn martial arts and protect yourself. It is impossible to develop in martial arts. Even if you put in more effort, it won't be a big deal. These two sentences have completely defeated Ye Kong. Disappointed, depressed, and frustrated. This is far worse than the Earth. He no longer wanted to stay in this bird continent and started thinking of going back, but there wasn't any girl Zhao here to give him a hand. He muttered, can you pass through if you die, or, let's kill ourselves. Dead is to be a satiety. When you look at the food, the white rice is hot, but it is the same as the earth, and then look at the dishes above, which are green vegetables similar to greens. Although there was no meat, it was delicious to eat, but to eat and eat, he suddenly thought of something. Ye Kong put down his chopsticks and opened the door to leave the room. At this moment, the moon is high, but the sky is not yet dark. So the oldest moon has a red ring, and there is a magnificent view that cannot be seen on earth. It's a pity that I can't stay long. Ye Kong sighed and opened the door of Chen Juniang's room. Empty child. Chen Juniang was startled, and subconsciously hid the cold bun in her back. Ye Kong's eyes widened. He came here because he guessed that the old lady must have given him all the food, so he wanted the old lady to go to him and have something to order. But who knows that the old lady couldn't even eat the white rice, and hid in the room and froze coldly. Mother, you just eat this. Ye Kong rose into anger. It's okay, mother, loves to eat steamed buns. Chen Juniang seemed to be afraid of her son's disbelief, and took a few sips of steamed buns, but the steamed buns had already lost the water overnight, and were dry and hard, so that her tears came out. Although this is not his mother, although there is no relationship, but seeing this scene, Ye Kong cannot bear it. His fairy. I'll hack them. Ye Kong turned around and left. Don't. Kong, mother is fine, you don't want to cause trouble, mother, as long as you are good, this is enough. Chen Juniang rushed to hug her son, begging with tears, you have a clear mind, mother does not know how happy, but empty, you are only 12 years old, and you can't fight them. Mother is now the most worried about you. You are good, mother can eat bran and drink thin. If you have a 3 long and 2 short, how can mother live go down? Chen Juniang finished her tears. Ye Kong was still thinking about going back to Earth after suicide, but when this scene happened, he found how cruel he was. Not only did he eat the soul of Chen Juniang's son, but he still had to end his life by himself. When he died, Chen Juniang couldn't live. Do not. I want to live. Live with Ye Kong's life. Not only do we have to live better, but we also have to pay the price of these unscrupulous people. Yekong gritted his teeth and slowly raised his head, as if swallowing something stiffly. This breath was really bad to swallow, but he swallowed, and at this moment, he also strengthened his conviction and crushed all the depression and decadence in the afternoon. Hatred is also a motivation. A long time. He exhaled a suffocation, and the clenched fist released. Mother, rest assured, one day, I will let them understand that what is eaten is to be vomited, what is taken is to be repaid, and those who bully me are too late to regret it. The night of the Kangnan continent is brighter and quieter than the earth. Moonlight through the window sash that has torn numerous window papers, sprinkled large and small bright white light blocks on the ground in front of the bed, making people feel a bit chill. The moonlight in front of the window is suspected to be frost on the ground. Looking up at the moon, looking down at your hometown. This quiet night thought was one of Yekong's few poems, which groaned at this time. However, his homesickness did not last long. Now that he has decided to persist in this strange and cruel continent, it is necessary to converge these emotions, even forget his identity as a human, and integrate into this world without too much tenderness. Striving for a trace of dignity and happiness for themselves. Yekong sat cross-legged on the bed. He had adapted to the air in the Kangnan continent and no longer felt unhappy, but he could still feel the aura in the air. Obviously, compared with the daytime, the aura of the water attribute is filled a lot, the aura of the wood attribute is also increased, the soil attribute has not changed, and the fire attribute and the metal attribute are so weak that they are almost imperceptible. Yekong speculated that this is probably because he came from a thin earth, like a person living in a long-term plateau hypoxic environment, suddenly came to the plane full of oxygen, and that kind of sensation was certainly more than living in plain people. Yekong suddenly felt that he was not useless. He felt sharper than the people in the Kangnan continent. Is this where he could start? I have seen a lot of fairy and martial arts novels, sucking the 5 elements of aura to benefit himself, gaining heaven and earth to enjoy the fairy itch. These Yekong knows that those novels are written very clearly, sucking in the aura, there is a sea of chi, and when it needs to be used, it will emit the aura, isn't it? Even if you can't become a fairy, let us practice internal skills or qigong to get the second pulse of the governor. That's fine. Practice for a few years as a master of martial arts, walk around, fight chivalrously, and then go through the rivers and lakes. Who dares to despise oneself and bully one's mother? But it sounds simple, and it's not that simple. How do you breathe aura of heaven and earth? Take a deep breath. How to win the world? There are Ren du Erme, the novel is not taken seriously, buddies really do not know where Ren du Erme is. No matter, meditate first. Yekong still knew about meditation. He sat cross-legged on the bed with his palms facing upwards, naturally resting on his knees, adjusted his breathing, no distractions, and slowly entered the set state. Not to mention, it is quite difficult to enter this place. It is not easy to enter a state like sleeping instead of sleeping without any thoughts in your mind. However, Yekong is also a firm-minded person. Since he has strengthened his confidence and has no other way out, it is only to get rid of all chances and practice hard. I don't know how much time has passed. Yekong is sitting with numb legs, and the drowsiness in his head can't stop rising. His eyelids seem to have tens of thousands of pounds. I can't wait to fall down in bed and sleep. Persist in the end is victory. Yekong smashed his lucky thought of wanting to say tomorrow, jumped out of bed, moved his legs and feet, and found a large embroidery needle for Chen Juniang to use. Ancient man's cantilever cone and thorn stalk, I'm here to learn today. Yekong climbed into the small bed again and sat cross-legged. I don't know how much time has passed. Yekong has put a few stitches on his thighs, and the blood stains have printed dots on the coarse pants. But Yekong was still insisting. He didn't believe that he couldn't even cross the threshold. Another hour passed, and in the beginning, Yekong finally entered a state of half-dream and awake for the first time, His breath was gentle, slow, and rhythmic, his brain was clear, but he was empty and thoughtless, his eyes opened slightly, but the visible sight was not the moonlight before him. He didn't know where he came from, feeling that it was a chaotic void, surrounded by clouds and fog, and he could not see the outside, but the space was empty. Yekong froze for a moment, quickly looked at himself, and found that he had become a white light ball. This is his soul. After entering the finals, he even came to the place where the last fought with the fool. Yekong didn't understand why he came here, and he didn't know where the human soul exists. Anyway, it shouldn't be Chi Hayden Tien, most of it is his mind or purple house. Suddenly, he found that there was not only him in the space, but above him, there was a golden light. What is that? Yekong flew up. I saw that the golden light hung high in the center of the space, not too big, but not small, about the size of the fool's soul last time, but the brightness was very high, Jinmang Kan, like a red sun in space. But Yekong knew that it must not be the sun, because the object in the golden light was flat and felt like a book. Why is there a book in my mind? Yekong was ridiculous for his guess. But when he flew not far above the golden light, he was surprised. Oh my God! It's really a book. I have a book in my mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 10. Chapter 9 Yewei. This discovery surprised Yekong, even more so than he came to the Kangnan continent. He couldn't think of a book and came to his head anyway. If he could put more books, then he could cheat. It is a pity that this continent does not need the college entrance examination, let alone, this book came into his head by chance, and other books cannot be loaded. What surprised Yekong even more was that the 4 big characters on the pages of the book were very clear, dams of charms. At the bottom of the cover is a row of small characters Longhu stays. Yekong originally thought that the book was originally in the head of a fool, but it doesn't seem to be right now. Seeing this dragon and tiger real person must have something to do with that dragon and tiger fate museum. It seems that the girl Zhao fought herself to another world with one palm, but still gave something useful by the way. Yekong was excited when he saw this book. Even if he is a fool, he can understand that he can enter the mind. This book of spells must not be ordinary, or maybe he is standing in the other world and running through the life-saving straw of Kangnan. He couldn't wait, and wanted to open the page to take a look. The book recorded the spells, and whether they were useful to himself. But soon he was not happy because he found that he couldn't open the book. He is now just a ball of light and has no hands or feet, but this does not affect his flipping of the book. As soon as he thinks about it, the cover of the book will be lifted. It was only that he found that the pages of the book turned out to be so powerful that he could use his milking power, and the golden-colored turquoise book cover only lifted a small corner of the book, and then irresistibly covered it. His fairy is stupid. I don't believe you, I can't move a page. However, this is not a time for anger. Ren Yekong desperately turned the book. The book could not be opened, and the range of opening was getting smaller and smaller. In the end, it remained motionless. Not good, Yekong suddenly felt that his brain was dizzy, and his vision began to blur, as if his entire body was empty. Oh, one night passed, and in the early morning, the sky was just bright, and the of the Kangnan continent finally sounded on time like the earth. Yekong's thin body crashed down on the bed. He closed his eyes, his lips were white, and sweaty beads on his forehead rolled from behind his ears to the porcelain pillow. He didn't know that they had saved his life. The most serious human injury is the damage of the soul of God. Although he devoured the soul of a fool, his soul is much stronger than his peers. However, the soul power has been severely overdrawn just now, and he has reached the point where the oil is exhausted. If not, this roar awakened him, I'm afraid he would either be in a hurry, or a brand new vegetative. Although he fortunately escaped, he was uncomfortable at the moment. Weak, very weak. He felt that his whole body was awkward, and he couldn't hold out even a little energy, even when he opened his eyes. With eyes closed, you can feel faint in front of your eyes, and all thoughts in your brain consciousness have stagnated. All pursuits, joys and sorrows, love and hate, have all disappeared. The sun is light and the sky is blue, another day is here. This place in Nanzhou has always been very suitable for crop growth and human habitation. If it is not close to the flood and borders with barbarians, it will be more prosperous here. Nandu City is the capital of Nanzhou. It is also the most prosperous city in the 8 states of Anguo, except for the capital of Anguo. Although the prosperity of Nandu City is politely said to be from the construction of the people in the quartet, everyone knows that this cannot be attributed to Ye Hairan, the supreme governor of Nanzhou. If General Ye had led the army to fight the harassment again and again, how could there be what about prosperity now? You know, more than 10 years ago, this place was a barren land. Ye Hairan's general status is due to his outstanding merit, and the young will be very creditable. Even the current Majesty's ascension is also due to his strong military strength. However, after His Majesty ascended the throne, he was worried that he would become a master and send him to the side to guard him. Ye Hairan was also happy to leave the political center, and led a group of soldiers to fight the world. However, even if the barbarians were broken up, they were not so secure. A few hundred miles away from the southern capital, the Ye family army was stationed, and Ye Hairan's eldest son Ye Wei was there to guard it. But early this morning, Ye Wei returned early. In front of the flower hall, Ye Hairan, who had just finished his morning exercise, put down his sword, took the towel from Ye Wei and wiped his hands and asked, "Wei, you should be in the army at this moment, how come back?" Ye Wei said, "There are 2 things to come back. One thing is some news in the army. The barbarian has gone through 10 years of hard work and regained their strength. Recently, they have a high-minded Chaha sweat. I think we will sooner or later. To fight against it, if he doesn't take his shot early, he will unite the various tribes of the barbarians within 10 years, fearing that we will not be opponents then." Ye Hairan groaned for a moment and said, "This matter is not in a hurry. Do not worry about it until I play His Majesty." "What about the second thing?" "Oh, the second thing is that the baby heard that Wan Xian is real." "Go to the study," Ye Hairan quickly interrupted. "Major events in the army can be discussed in front of the flower hall, but this second thing must be said in the study, and it must be very secret." "How ye, study?" "Dad, will Wan Xian real people covet my family treasure and don't want to return it?" Ye Wei said very carefully. "No bullshit," Ye Hairan roared, looked around, and then whispered in a low voice. "Be careful, Wan Xianzhen is a fairy, not just a fairy, that is the foundation period of great magical powers. You can hear us thousands of miles away." "Hear thousands of miles?" Ye Wei was a little surprised, but in a skeptical tone, "What does the foundation period mean?" "Listen to the literal meaning, build the foundation, shouldn't it be so powerful?" "Presumptuous, you are talking about the immortal thing? He is fundamental, and it is not something that I and other mortals can compete with." Ye Hairan reprimanded his son again, and then explained, "I heard Wan Xianzhen last time. Only one ordinary person can have a person with Xiandao qualification, and only 1,000 or 3 people with Xiandao qualification can produce such 2 or 3 foundation teachers. You can calculate that this chance is 1 in 10 million. Wouldn't that be great?" Ye Wei couldn't help hearing this and nodded, "No wonder fairies are so rare." Probably sighing that he was not a god, Ye Hairan sighed, leaned his back on the back of the rosewood chair, and said slowly to himself, "I hope that Wangsuan real people can learn the secrets of our Ye family baby, even if it is given to him, it is nothing." Ye Wei stood up in shock and persuaded, "Father, we have passed on the Ye family for many generations and have collected hundreds of years of precious books. How can we give them away for nothing? It has been used for centuries to collect farts, and it is worthless to us. It will also bring disaster. Ye Harem glared at his son and said, if Wan Xian is willing to accept it, he owes us yet. A family relationship will surely keep our Ye family safe for 100 years. Do you understand? Ye Wei wasn't stupid. He immediately thought of something and sat back in his chair and sighed. Our Ye family didn't have the heart to fight for power. The emperor, alas, we had soldiers to win him. Ye Harem smiled, do you think the emperor's ascension was really because I had some army to support him? You are wrong. Ye Wei has always thought the same as all the people in the southern metropolis. He believes that His Majesty's ability to become emperor is due to General Ye Harem's contribution. At this time, he heard his father say that this was not the case, which made him hard to believe. I'm telling you, Ye Harem's voice was getting lower and lower, and his son's ears were said, in today's Kangnan continent, which country's royal family does not have a Xianxian sect behind it? In fact, the emperor is just these fairy families' representatives in the mortal world. The immortal sends a sentence that is more useful than a million military forces. Ye Wei heard this statement for the first time in history, and opened his mouth in shock at the moment. It turned out to be the case. Isn't the emperor the same? No. Ye Harem shook his head. He is not a fairy, but he can better represent the interests of the fairy family. Ye Wei really sighed this time, full of anxiety about the future. He originally felt that as long as he firmly grasped the military power of the south, the emperor would not dare to move the Ye family. Now it seems that the emperor can mobilize the fairy and kill at any time anyone in his family. Ye Harem watched his son's decadence and comforted him. You don't have to be too nervous. The Xian family doesn't ask us about mortals. It is a last resort and it won't help your majesty. Ye Wei thought up and said, what if we also rely on a Xianxian school? Speaking of Ye Harem's heart, he said with a smile, that's why I hope Wan Xian can owe us the love of Ye family. You must know that these Xianxia martial arts are not for you to trust. Although Wanjia has no martial arts behind you, big, but also a big Xianxian family, if you can get in touch. Ye Harem squinted his eyes, apparently already thinking about beauty. However, Ye Wei said with great sorrow, but what if the mysterious real person cannot understand it? We must know that our Ye family has obtained this thing for hundreds of years. Numerous ancestors want to study the secret of cultivation into immortals from the inside, but it's all a return. Ye Harem was also frustrated when he said that, there would be no way, but I still have a second hand. Oh, Ye Wei heard, his eyes lit up. Father, I don't know what you said just now. Ye Wei asked carefully. In fact, he heard the wind, otherwise he would rush back from the border defense camp overnight. Ye Harem drank tea and sold it, only to be proud of it. I had thought about it for my father. It is better to ask for oneself than others. Even if Wan Xian is willing to protect the Ye family, it is not very convenient. I also have a cultivator. Ye Wei said, at least His Majesty must consider carefully before moving us. Yes, Ye Harem slaps at the table and laughs. When Ye Xianzhen came to the house to borrow a book 5 years ago, I wanted to ask him to accept the 2 offspring of the Ye family as an apprentice. I am not happy, so I didn't say anything. This time the real person came. No matter whether the book was helpful to him or not, the father had to take this opportunity to ask for a teacher. Ye Wei smiled when he heard it, and asked embarrassedly, my child is just 4 years old. I don't know if it can also be accepted by Wanzan people? This is the age when I started to learn martial arts. Ye Harem immediately understood the main purpose of his son's hastily rushing back, pointing at his son and laughing angrily, isn't your son just my grandson? I won't help him think about it, but this way of repairing immortals is different from learning martial arts. The better, Even an 80-year-old man can get a way to improve his morals. I have inquired that I must be at least 8 years old to see if he has the qualification to cultivate an immortal. Ah, it turned out that way. Yewei was disappointed. Yaharan also sighed. Last time I came to borrow a book, I did not mention the apprenticeship. There were also reasons for this. At that time, 9 children reached the age of 8. Now it is different. Even you, my husband has 32. Sons and daughters are over 8 years old, and I think, there are always 2 or more of them who have the qualifications to be a fairy. Yewei, who was just disappointed, raised hope in his eyes. Father, I have hope. Of course, as long as you have the qualification to cultivate an immortal, you must worship Wan Xian as a teacher for your father. The temptation of immortal road is so huge for mortal people. Yewei is also happy, and laughs. It is best that all of our Ye family cultivate into immortals, haha, and enjoy eternal life. Yaharan was so happy that he even joked with his son, wasn't that becoming your master brother as a father? Haha. They thought very well, but forgot what they said just now, that the qualification of Xianxian is one of 10 things. How can there be so many people suitable for practice? The 2 generations of the Ye family are just dozens of people. One of them has the qualification to cultivate an immortal, and the chance is very small, not to mention that the qualification is divided into good and bad. The 2 talked for a while, and Yaharan suddenly said, "Oh, you go back and visit the old 8th, and he suddenly cleared his mind recently and he has a good smart plan, which makes me wonder. It's a solution. Betty is recovering." Yewei was a little surprised, and then said, "This is a good thing. It is reasonable to inform the whole government and greatly pardon it," Yewei said. Hearing Yewei's words, Yaharan just nodded, but suddenly thought of Yekong's ugly mother. He waved and said, "This is not a rush. I'm asking you how he thinks he is suddenly better." Yewei hesitated. That's it, you should be happy. Why should you investigate why?" Yewei didn't dare to speak upright. Think about it, the 8th brother couldn't be said to be completely stupid before, that is, a little chaotic. Now he is a long-aged man, and he is getting acquainted with it, and it is normal to understand things. It's not that simple. Yaharan shook his head. If, as you said, he's got it right, at best he just knows something, but you don't know, he's smart now, his character has changed a lot. Well, you see, just know. Yewei scratched his head and said, "I heard people say that there is only a distant line between genius and idiot. Many geniuses are idiots in his daily life. I guess my 8th brother became an genius from idiot overnight. Well, not to mention, someone helped to speak was different." Yaharan heard it and felt a bit reasonable. He put down his guess and smiled. "I originally guessed whether he had been pretending to be stupid before. Now it seems you are talking more possible." Yewei also laughed. Actually, the child also thought about the possibility of acting stupid, but it was not good for him at all, so he denied it. Yaharan thought the same way in his heart, and no longer thought about it, nodded. "Then you go, find it wrong, come back and tell me." Yewei nodded, left the study, and went straight to the outer courtyard to see Yekong. What he didn't expect was that Yekong was sick at the moment. Looking at Yekong, who was seriously ill, Yewei didn't say much and left first. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 11. Chapter 10. Wan Xian. Yekong is sick. This news hasn't gotten much attention in the courtyard of Yefu's courtyard. In their opinion, this fool is not stupid, and it won't make any big waves. But for Yekong, this soul damage is not a bad thing. A daring guy like him would dare to practice without any exercises. In the future, there are various exercises in hand, and I don't know what to practice. This experience has made him more cautious on the road to cultivation. 3 days later, Yekong Guo. "Mother, I'm fine, so don't drink. Ye Kong disgustedly pushed away the bitter medicine bowl. Empty child, good medicine is bitter. You just drank it for 3 days and it's almost fine. Hold on for 3 more days. When it's alright, let's stop. Okay, Chen Juniang sat on the bed and advised. In fact, Ye Kong was very clear. He was just injured in the soul. He was very healthy. He could eat the soul without any medicine. Now it is much better, because the soul has the ability to heal itself, not to mention he is only exerting too much force. Is not damaged. But these Ye Kong are not good at telling the aging mother. Looking at the top of the account for a long time, they found that the aging mother was still holding it, but they had no choice but to take it. Okay, I can't drink it. Oh, I'm really afraid of you. After resting in bed for 3 days, Ye Kong felt much better. As soon as he was about to get out of bed, he heard the old lady talking to someone, and the voice was getting closer. Ye Halo said, "Could someone visit me? This Kangnan continent is really cruel. A useless person like himself didn't see anyone come to visit for 3 days. Who is this today?" The long door shaft turned, and a tall young man in his 20s stood outside the door. Ye Wei came here. He is now 26 years old. He has now opened a government office, married his wife and had children, and led soldiers to fight. He has become a powerful arm of Ye Harem. This big brother can't talk about taking care of the 8 idiots, but he is more upright, and when he is injustice, he often comes out to help the poor mother and son. Ye Kong won the moment, but he could not help his mother and son. But in the mind of the idiot Ye Kong, he was very grateful to this elder brother. After all, in this mansion, only he did not scold himself a fool, and only he would help to say 2 fair words. Brother Ye Kong saw Ye Wei come in, and even moved his eyes to be red. "You lie down. I have been at my house for the past 2 days. I heard about it as soon as I came here. I came to see you quickly. I heard that you were sober last time and did not have time to meet you." Ye Wei put down the snack box and small paper bag in your hand, walk quickly to the bed and sit down. When he was on the earth, Ye Kong felt that he was hard-hearted enough, and he would not cry when he encountered anything touching. But when I came here, I found that my own name is fragile, and the humanity here is called iron stone-hearted. There is no mercy to the weak, but only to fall down. Fortunately, there is another big brother who is good to him. The two talked for a while. Ye Kong said that he wanted to study in the library, and Ye Wei told him that the teaching was an old study and very old-fashioned, but the poems and articles were a must, which made Ye Kong study hard and you can make a name for it in the future. Ye Kong smiled. He just wanted to learn literacy when he went to study. After chatting for a while, Ye Wei saw Ye Kong's mind really well, and asked some old things, and found that Ye Kong also remembered clearly, so he was more at ease. "Last time I heard my father said that you are too late to learn martial arts, and you are going to study diligently, so I went to buy some pen and ink paper and 4 treasures in the study." Ye Wei is also a caring person. In this Kangnan continent, the poor or even pen and ink paper can't afford it. "Thank you, brother." Ye Kong quickly thanked. "You're welcome, my brother. Then I will go back first. My 8th brother will rest peacefully, study hard after physical recovery. There will be a day in the future." Ye Wei finished, nodded and smiled, and went out of Chen Juniang's persistent thank you and go. "Young master is really nice." Chen Juniang sent Ye Wei away, sighed back to the room, put the pen and ink bag aside, opened the snack box, and wanted to get some snacks for Ye Kong to eat. "No snack, just a 52 piece of silver." Master is really a good person." Chen Juniang couldn't help but repeat it again, and then said to Ye Kong, "I will wait for you to make a difference in the future. Remember to report to others." "Okay, ma'am, you have to hurry up to save the silver, so as to save Ye Cai from seeing them and thinking badly." Ye Kong answered with a smile, but he was thinking, Wei must take Harem status as a homeowner. Need to repay yourself as a useless person? Chen Juniang was not as complicated as he was, so he happily picked up the silver, and said, "My mother is here to marry your daughter-in-law," and went back to the house to put the silver. "Please, buddy, I'm only 12 years old." Yekong smiled bitterly. When the old woman went out, Yekong was bored and half lying down, thinking of the book in her head again. Encyclopedia of Charms. To enter the head, it must be something ordinary, but how can I open it? Yekong closed his eyes. He was still obsessed with the Encyclopedia of Spells, and he felt that to survive in this cruel and helpless Kangnan continent, it seemed that he could only rely on this book hidden in his soul. However, he has already suffered a lot, and he is afraid to try it anyway. Days passed, half a month passed. Yekong's damaged soul gradually got better. Yekong's study life began here. He went to the school every morning and returned for lunch at noon. There is an old gentleman in the school, called Zhang Wuid, who has the same face as a deputy door all day long and does not smile. Zhang Wuid began to have a bad impression of Yekong, because he knew he was stupid, and what words did stupid learn? Wasn't it insulting himself to teach the stupid? But later he said that he was not stupid, but if you are not stupid, you should work harder. A lazy look that can't open your eyes, it is estimated that you can't learn well. But after a few days, Zhang Wuid found that he still misread him. Although the child was lazy, he was actually very serious. It was neither like those older children who turned around the girls, nor like those young children. Noisy, on the contrary, Yekong speaks and works with an old age that does not match his age, and his eyes are more like adults. And more importantly, Yekong has his own opinion on everything. Although he constantly speaks dirty words, he is very reasonable. He often utters a classic saying, which makes Zhang Wuid very happy and thinks that he has encountered good materials and wants pass him all his ink. But Yekong has no interest in those poems, songs, and fu. He is more concerned about strange things, such as whether there are Buddhist Taoism or Christian light in this world, such as whether there are immortals, where to find immortals, and whether there is no painting in this world. There are no ghosts. Zhang Wuid was also asked a few questions about things such as waiting, but this old scholar is also rich in experience. Not only have he read thousands of books, but he has also traveled thousands of miles for many years as an official, and he has a little understanding of some mortals. No. He told Yekong that there is no denomination in this world, but there are immortals. To be precise, they cannot be called immortals, because they have not cultivated into immortals. They are called immortals. Cultivators generally belong to various cultivators or families, but these people concentrate on cultivation and disdain dealing with mortals, so it is rare to see them. In addition to organized cultivators, there are also some casual repairs, but most of these repairs are not high. Because there is no backing behind them, they are often killed by people when they place orders. Therefore, casual repairs are very rare, and they are not usually on weekdays. Dare to show up. Zhang Wuid also heard that in addition to the immortal, there are also demon cultivators. Originally, those who cultivated immortals belonged to ruthless people, and those who cultivated demons were even more terrifying. The biggest difference is that the cultivator is a murderer and a treasure hunter, and the cultivator does not need a reason to kill. As for Gaifu, it is not clear. After all, he has not cultivated immortality. He can only know some general conditions, and the details are unknown. However, Zhang Wuid still has a lot of books, many of which are exotic. Yekong likes to read such books most, but the Kangnan characters he knows are still scarce, and many of them don't know much and affect him. Read. Time rushed, 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning, Yekong packed it up and asked her mother to comb her hair, change her clean gown, bring a pen and ink to her, and leave the hospital to the school. As soon as he stepped out of the courtyard door, he looked up and saw the steward Xiai rushing in from outside. It seemed that something urgent had happened, and the situation ran towards the inner courtyard. A fire? Is it dead? Yekong snorted, still walking towards the school. As soon as Yekong left, he saw Yeharan in a well-groomed suit, with Yewei and Mrser, and quickly walked out. There was an uncontrollable joy on his face. A few people in a row, 3 steps and 2 steps, quickly walked out of the door. Outside the door, an old man with white hair stood indifferently. The old man only wore a gown, his appearance was very ordinary, and a small black-gray bag was hanging around his waist. Such ordinary people abound on the streets of the southern capital. Those soldiers who keep the gates do not understand why the owner Yeharan took his son and his wife out to welcome them. "Oh, immortal master, please come inside." General Ye, who was extremely majestic, saw the old man with a smile on his face like a flower in full bloom. "Oh, you're welcome. I haven't seen it in 5 years, and the general's style is still there." Wan Xianzhen smiled and said a few words, followed Yeharan into the magnificent Ye family door. Where, old, wow, I wait for mortals, where can I be a fairy teacher? I see that the fairy teacher is better than that year, there must be a breakthrough in practice. Yeharan flattered as he walked. Wan Xianzhen smiled bitterly. How do you know that General Xiandao is difficult? Like an old man, you have basically reached the top of your practice, and want to make another breakthrough. There is no coincidence, it is impossible to go further. Yeharan listened to Wan Xian's real emotion and hurriedly changed the topic. Immortals have a long life and are much longer than mortals such as me. I believe real people will have a chance. Wan Xianzhen was also reluctant to talk more about his cultivation behavior, followed by a smile. The cultivator of the immortal is indeed much longer than the mortal, and many cultivators stay in beauty, and you can't guess the age by appearance. When I first practice, I have seen a teenager who looks like a 20-year-old. Who knows, that man was an old man who became famous 500 years ago. Haha, everyone laughed. But listening to Wan Xian's words, Yeharan and Yewei's eyes were full of longing for Xianxia, not to say anything else, to say that immortality, which is enough to make mortals jealous. Even the second wife who followed her was very enthusiastic. If she could become an immortal and live forever, she would be young forever. But she also knows that Yeharan can let his son and daughter go to cultivate the immortal, but he won't let his wife and concubine go to cultivate the immortal. You should know that Yeharan wants to keep the Ye family safe forever. If you let your wife and concubine go out to catch some immortals, cuckold is a trivial matter, and it will be counterproductive. Since she can't cultivate the immortals, the second wife is pinning her hopes on Ye Wenaiwu. As long as they are all immortals, isn't it true that their own wife is going to fill the house? Mrs second, the two in front is decided. Of course, I heard that Xianxia also needs qualifications. The second wife hates that she hasn't had a few more children. If she has 180 children, the chances will be more. But now it's obviously too late, so she begged Yeharan to let her brother's daughter and the immortal check the qualifications. Yeharan was reminded by her, and she felt right. After all, one of the qualifications of Xianxia was selected. If her children were not selected, then the children of relatives, friends, and loyal servants would be fine. The door. So Yeharan made 2 preparations, first himself and his children. If one of them had the qualification to cultivate an immortal, the candidate would not be mentioned. If not, then the second echelon, the children of friends and relatives, sold to the children of Ye's loyal servant, that is, the servant who was given the surname Ye. Yesai followed, although he couldn't hear what the master said, but he was very nervous. He prayed that none of Yeharan's family could be selected, so that his son's substitute could come on the field. Hey, if my son Yesai is an immortal, this Ye family Laozi can go sideways, as well as the 4th son of Li, who told you not to name Ye, I am afraid that you do not even know the news. Thinking of Li Laozi, I naturally thought of another person, Ye Kong. Hey, you fool, who told you that you were bad, who told you to provoke your wife to be unhappy, and I will not inform you. However, he thought about it. In fact, it was okay to call the fool. Isn't the second wife a trivial matter? Maybe he has the qualifications to be a fairy? At this moment, Ye Kong, who wanted to cultivate the immortal, knew nothing about it, and still rummaged through Zhang Wuiyude. He didn't even know that a great opportunity to enter the immortal gate would slip away from his fingers. Sir, why does the Kangnan aliens only say that there is endless floodland around the mainland, and what is there in the floodland? Aren't all the immortals living there? Ye Kong asked. Zhang Wuiyude shook his head. I don't know, the floods are in crisis and all kinds of monsters run rampant. No one can go deep inside. Even those barbarians who have survived along the floods since ancient times just dared to spin around the floods. I do know what the end of Hong Huang is. I do think the fairy will choose to practice there. Oh, that's the case, so where can I find the fairy? Ye Kong asked without asking. Zhang Wuiyude smiled and didn't blame him. In fact, he also wanted to cultivate into a fairy for a while. Empty child, being an immortal is not as easy as you think. Even if you go to the door, people don't necessarily accept you. Cultivation of immortality requires spiritual roots. Although there are spiritual roots, 1 in 2, but in fact this spiritual root is there are inheritance factors, like your ancestors of the Ye family did not have any immortals. Even if 10,000 Ye family members stood up, they would not have a spiritual root. You should not delusional on the road of immortality.